Got it. There we go. Welcome everyone to Gamers Breakfast. My name is SkojSkull, one of the hosts. With me, I got our co-host Jalbagel, and we got our guest today, Jiangshi. Welcome. How you guys all doing?
Hello. Doing good. How are you?
That was the jankiest freaking intro I've ever done.
That was an intro. No, you did a great job.
There we go.
I gotta put you on the spot doing more of those so you get better at it.
Oh yeah, no.
Intros are tough.
Yeah, I was just teaching today too, and I can't speak English today. It's just
No English nopers.
No.
I'm doing good. It's freaking cold here. I'm freezing.
My car had like ice on it this morning. I almost got late because freaking I couldn't see.
Oh, thank you.
And the car
I
was like
refuse
started.
to
I was
live
like, oh.
anywhere. I refuse to live anywhere where ice can form.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't relate to it being cold. I think it got chilly here last week, but it was foggy and it was 60 degrees.
I want to move out of here.
Okay, so
That was how cold it was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get yelled at. I'm gonna get yelled at for this because I live in Florida, so cold for me right now is 72.
Yeah, see
It's not very cold.
It's 51.
that's not cold.
But it's cold for me. I'm freezing right now.
It was 33 this morning.
It's one more than
That's
freezing.
too cold. That's too cold.
That's
No,
like,
thank you.
I'd stay at that weather or like around that, like at least 40 or 50. 40 or 50 is perfect. I said like hoodie,
Also too cold.
sweatpants weather, jeans weather, pants weather, like perfect. Like I'm fine with that. Don't get cold in that because it's not gonna get comfortable.
Oh. I can't do that. I used to I've done snow twice in my life, and both times I hated it.
I don't like it.
See, I lived in New York for about 5 years, and the snow was tough, but not so bad. It was mostly when it was really windy and cold that it was terrible. And I just wanted to fall over and not move.
Yep.
I just wanted to roll up in a burrito on the floor and be like, I don't want to walk in it cold.
New York gets the kind of cold that Florida gets, which is that really humid cold. So everything is just cold to the bone, and you feel like you're dying.
Yep, pretty much. It sucks.
Yeah, don't like that.
It's bad, but yeah. At least tell us a little about yourself and what you do. You do a lot of you do a lot of variety. But yeah, tell us a little about what you do.
All right, I'm terrible at intros, but I'll give this a try.
I think I started us off pretty well, so you got.
Yeah, you can always do better than Skoy.
Wow.
Oh, damn. My God.
Love you.
This is our relationship.
That support is just so
freaking
wholesome.
podcast
I do
husband
love
here
him
just
to death.
roasting.
Well, I guess my name is Elise, but my username is Jiangshi. I mostly stream variety currently. Usually it's just solo player games or single player games that have either a well-written story or it's just got really good gameplay. Gameplay that's been recommended to me. So that's Hollow Knight, because it doesn't really have a narrative type deal, but
Yeah.
it's been fun. So I've mainly been trying to breeze through my backlog, but also taking on recommendations that people give me of really good story games to play. And it's been a fun experience while waiting for Rise on PC. That's my main multiplayer game that I play, as you both know. But it's been fun. It's been quite an experience. I've been enjoying it a lot. A lot of the games that I've been playing have been fun. So that's pretty much all I do. I also started cosplaying this last year. Thanks, pandemic, because I was getting bored inside, and I decided to start cosplaying. My friends Linda, Vampy Bit Me, and Steph Stone Cosplay, they both encouraged me to do it, and I ended up trying it, and I've really been loving it. So that's kind of become one of my new hobbies, is just cosplaying on stream as well, and that's been really fun. So that's pretty much me. I don't know what else to say about myself.
That's great, though.
I think you did a good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What are some of the games in your backlog right now? I'm curious to see what other people are waiting to play or trying to play, because I know for me it's Dark Souls and a couple of indie games.
So So right now, the ones that I'm currently playing are Village, AI the Somnium Files, which I'm almost finished with, and then I'm replaying Alice Madness Returns and Hollow Knight.
I've heard Alice Madness Returns is really good.
It is
Alice
really
is very
good. It's one of my favorite games of all time, but I hadn't played it since it was on Xbox 360. I've owned it on PC for a while, so I figured I should just replay it on stream, and it's been really fun to rediscover that game and kind of experience it again for the second time, so that's been nice. The games that I'm most looking forward to are the Gen 4 remakes from Pokemon.
Yes.
I'm excited.
I've never streamed Pokemon.
You never streamed Pokemon?
So never ever, because I've only been streaming for about 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And I started streaming only Monster Hunter. So I only started doing variety in 2020, and I started with Dark Souls 3 was where I started like my variety journey. But never Pokemon. I didn't even stream Sword and Shield. So I'm actually pretty hyped to stream the Gen 4 remakes. Empoleon Supremacy.
Yes.
Torterra.
Yes.
I love my Turtwig.
No.
Empoleon.
All day long.
Empoleon Supremacy.
I love all of them. My first, when I was young, when I was a kid, was Turtwig. What do you know? I'm just.
Nope.
I can't even say anything because I'll probably end up boxing them, right? Because like I've played and replayed Pokemon games so many times, I kind of like bored of the start with the starter. It's like, yeah, I'll just box them and play with the cricket tot.
Water Steel.
He's cool.
Is so cool.
Is wild.
Yeah, Empoleon.
I can't count on one hand anymore the number of times I've replayed each Pokemon game. Like
Really?
I play them so often. I do them constantly.
I get connected so much to like the characters and the Pokemon that like they have nicknamed that it's hard for me to like separate from that and restart the game and go through everything again. For me, well, it was also like growing up, I've always been like a one and done kind of person. Like I'm done with the game, all right, next game. But yeah.
I think that's
at least
fair,
with the advent of like Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Home, where you can just like keep transferring your Pokemon up through every game, like that's what I did, right? Like I'd play through the game. I would always get both. And I'd play through one that was my main, and then the other one was like my challenge game, right? So like for Sword and Shield, Shield is my main game. That's where like all my Pokemon live. That's where I do everything that's like post game stuff. But then Sword's my challenge game. So like I did my Monotype Bug playthrough on Sword. I started a Nuzlocke on Sword. And so that's how I've always done it. So like the Pokemon that I did like my first experience with stayed with me because like I always keep the main and then I just trade it, up and up. Like I have the first shiny that I ever hatched from Gen 4. It was an Eevee. Accidentally hatched it, like full odds, just an Eevee, and now it's an Umbreon, little blue lad.
I think I accidentally released mine.
I was so worried that you were gonna be like, yeah, now it's an Espeon, and I was gonna be like,
No, I transferred all of my all of the shiny Eevees that I caught from the last Pokemon Community Day that hosted Eevees. I had like 9 of them. I just transferred them all to Sword, and so I'm gonna evolve the rest of those into the other shiny Eevees.
Just don't do Espeon. Don't even bother. Shiny Espeon.
Okay.
So, no. Shiny Espeon falls into the category of Pokemon shinies that are just what I call reject shinies, where they're all just this horrific lime green color. There's no
it's
reason
lime green.
It's
it's the most disgusting color of green.
Question: why is it Dragonite green? Why couldn't it be pink? I want a pink freaking like not Charizard. What was it?
Pink.
Dragonite. Fucking
You
Dragonite is
just
green.
You just said it.
I did say it. I said it right.
You did. You said Dragonite. Yeah. But you're valid.
Why is Dragonite green? Why can't it be pink? I wanted Charizard.
That's why I questioned myself because I thought it said Charizard, and I was just like, no,
you're nailing it, dude.
Yeah, but the Dratini and the Dragonair.
Yeah, Dragonair.
They're both like a beautiful pink. Why can't that transfer over to the next one?
Well, that's because Dragonite's not a beautiful blue, so.
It could have been blue too. Oh.
Would have been actually really neat.
I remember as a kid being really disappointed that Dragonair evolved into Goofy Goober.
He's such a derpy dragon. I love him.
I just thought that Dragonair was so pretty, and then all of a sudden it's like, here's Dragonite, and I'm like, what happened to Dragonair? Like it was so elegant and pretty. I love Dragonite.
And then you go and play Gen 3. And you find out that Feebas evolves into Milotic, and you're like, why didn't Dragonair evolve into this?
Beautiful though.
Oh,
Pretty
I
much.
love that. I
me
love
and
that for
Milotic.
Phoebus.
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it for? It was like a Pokemon episode or something, like way back, where it was just like the Pokemon evolved and the trainer like rejected it because it looked ugly. I don't know if it was it's terrible. Or was the other way around? They rejected it because it looked ugly and then evolved as something beautiful. I don't know. It was something like that.
You're gross. Throws it out the window.
Evolved.
Comes
makes
back
me think of
beautiful
that,
and
like,
stronger.
Episode of Pokemon that I saw, but I didn't I didn't actually watch it. I just saw the screenshots where it's like Gengar being abandoned, and that made me really
Aw.
sad. The one
So
where
I
it's,
will say
They made a
this.
statue of that.
it broke my
Aw.
soul because I'm a ghost Pokemon fanatic.
Did you
so-
know they made a statue of like a figurine of that scene?
That's so cute, but also so sad.
Like he's just sitting on
I
the
wanna see that.
side. I forgot. Like
Just Google
it
it.
has to be.
I'm
It was
looking.
everywhere. It was just Gengar looking really sad sitting. And it
Oh,
was
like sitting on the
heartbreaking. Yeah.
steps. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's so fucking sad.
I will say this. Now is a great time to get into like Pokemon shows because they've been doing a lot of like really good stuff with that. Between the Pokemon shows that are on Netflix right now, which are honestly pretty good as far as like Pokemon shows are concerned. Like they're solid.
Sun and Moon one wasn't it for me. I tried a few episodes of it. I don't know.
Sun and Moon wasn't great, but Pokemon Journeys is actually really good. Like I've been enjoying it. And then there's also the YouTube series. That's what's the YouTube series?
Journey?
Is it called Pokemon Adventures?
Journeys?
Journeys is the show that's on Netflix. Pokemon. They're like is it Adventures?
I don't know.
No,
I
it's
sadly have
not.
not watched any Pokemon since like Pokemon Johto, probably.
Oh, that's
It's
fair.
like
Sadly.
because it's all about like the like each generation's kind of like pivotal story, right? So like the N and Getsus feud from Gen 5 from Black and White, like that's the most recent episode where it was about N and Getsus.
I need to watch
Pokemon
those.
Evolutions.
Evolutions.
Yeah, they're really good because not only is like the animation style amazing for these things, it's a much more adult take on Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they don't focus
and a
on
lot more
Ash.
serious.
Ash gets so much hate. That poor child.
He's
He's just been a
still
child for years.
He's still a child, and the story is still centered around him. I feel like they need to just put him on the back burner for now. We'll go back to him. He's an adult or something. I don't know. Like,
I agree with that the series could use a new protagonist, but I like what they've been doing with other
With other
franchises and stuff. Yeah. The evolution stuff is really cool though. If you haven't watched it, you definitely should. Mhm.
I'll probably have to
This is
check it
me
out.
bringing up anime for once.
That's so crazy.
so that
From what the boy tells me, that's so crazy.
it is pretty crazy. So leading on from that, what is your current anime you're watching?
That I'm watching?
Yes.
So I just finished rewatching. The last anime that I watched was rewatching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood with my boyfriend because he had never seen it before, and I thought that
Good
was
show.
painful. So,
Nice.
but he doesn't really watch a lot of anime. So like we watched Demon Slayer together, and then when we watched Full Metal Alchemist, because that was my recommendation,
Mhm.
and he really liked it. Next up is probably going to be Jujutsu Kaisen. I want to say.
Yes. It's a solid
I just
show.
have to find a place to watch it.
Mhm.
I've also been trying to keep up with. I have a hard time staying up to date with airing anime because I always forget
Yeah.
when they air. And then I just end up falling behind and watching a bunch of episodes. But I plan on watching Demon Slayer as it airs. I watched the first episode that aired with about Rengoku, the one that like is separate from the Mugen Train movie and all that stuff. So I did watch that one, but I haven't watched any since.
Yeah, neither have
but I have to
I,
get
because
back
it's
watching that.
all Mugen Train right now. That's all it is.
I do recommend if you saw the movie, at least watch the first episode of the second season because it's all different stuff. Like
Okay.
it's all focused on Rengoku, but it's before the train. So it's like you kind of get more information about Rengoku and his character and what he does as like a Hashira, which I thought was really nice because it doesn't like immediately start where the movie started.
I'm excited for that.
So it's nice. It's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they are after that episode because that's the only one I've watched.
Oh.
But it was cool. It was cool to see more of Rengoku.
Rengoku's a sweetheart. I love him.
I like him a lot, but my favorite character is Giyu, so
that's fair.
I mean, it's not surprising. My favorite Attack on Titan character was Levi, so I go for the blank-faced, like
the blank-faced
really
characters,
extra like strong characters. Like I don't know, like
that when you find out more about the character, when you find out more about the character, you're just like, oh my god.
I don't know what it is. That's just like my favorite character archetype. Like my friend has already predicted who I'm gonna like in Jujutsu Kaisen based off of that, and I forget their name, but they have like black spiky hair. So I think that's the character that they predicted that I'm gonna like. Yeah, they predicted that that's the guy I'm gonna like. So I'm like, okay, we'll see.
I don't know.
A lot of people like Gojo, but we'll see. We'll see who I like. I'm not sure.
I'm curious. I'm really curious now. I'm gonna bank on Gojo.
We'll see. I don't know. It's like
I'm sorry.
I've gotten multiple different predictions. Like
this is fine for me. I'm fine with this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it this is fine as in it's actually fine, or is it this is fine like the dog in the fire in the house?
No, this is actually fine because this is instigating me to figure out how I can start watching Demon Slayer. I'm like that's what I'm trying to figure out right now is where I can watch it.
Funimation.
Crunchyroll. I
Crunchyroll?
can give you my login for Crunchyroll if you want.
You keep saying that, and yet there's no DM with your login info yet.
Fuck, I'll do it right now. Jesus Christ.
The first season of Demon Slayer is on Netflix as well. It's like
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
I have Netflix open right now.
So is Attack on Titan. They're both on there. At least they used to be. I don't know if they took them off because I know Netflix removes stuff at the start of every month.
Oh yeah, the first season of Demon Slayer sure is right here, and the first season of Attack on Titan sure is still here too. No, I've watched that. I watched Attack on Titan up to season 2.
Did you like it?
I did like it, but I heard that like towards the end of season 2, start of season 3, that it became a lot more political, and so like when those things were coming out, I wasn't like in a position to keep watching anime, so I stopped. But I was thinking about picking back up Attack on Titan. Yeah, I've been in a very binge-worthy TV mood recently, and so I ran out of things to watch, so I might pick that up.
I would say pick it up because like it does have some political elements, but I feel did you ever watch Brotherhood?
Yeah, I did. Because
if you watch Brotherhood, I feel like it's got
a similar vibe.
It's got a similar vibe, but I feel like Attack on Titan is even less political than Brotherhood.
Right.
Brotherhood had way more.
No, Brotherhood like was straight up politics. It was like towards the end of
politics. Towards the end. So I'm like, Attack on Titan isn't really as overwhelmingly politics.
Yeah. And I'm so weird because like I say that and I still liked things like Death Note. Like I enjoyed reading Death Note.
Season 4 so far has been strongly political though. I feel
it has.
It has, but like when you're watching it, like you realize that this is needed because it's when like the story is kind of like resolving and it's kind of explaining everything that's happened previously.
And I think that's like smart for shows too, because like you get so far into it that you finally do need a point where it's like, okay, here is your lore dump. Here is like the state of affairs, because you need this for the conclusion of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you just
for the people that have been like sticking with it, they appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
Because like even some of the big 3 like standard shonens got a little like political towards the end. Like One Piece has gotten a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Political. I'm not super caught up on it because I got really behind in One Piece, but it's pretty political with like the dragons and everything.
Dragons in One Piece? What the hell?
It's the title of like the nobles. It's the title of like the nobles, but it has to do with like I don't know how far you got when you first, but with like Robin and the reading the tablets that had like that missing part of history. There's like a whole part of history missing. So it has like its own little political aspect. I feel like almost every anime has like,
long running shows like that usually do, yeah.
But I don't think any show I've ever watched has ever gone as hard into it as Brotherhood. Like Brotherhood was like, we are gonna talk about politics with
but Brotherhood was important because you needed to understand, because of the whole oh my god, why am I drawing the blank on the name? The homunculus, right? Because you needed to understand like who was a homunculus and where they were in the seat of power, and plus the entire show is, an allegory on World War II.
Yeah, it was really good though.
It was really good.
It's a fantastic show.
It was really nice going back to like having a background. Like I love it when they just like, you know what? Background story, and I'm just like, what background? Oh.
Yeah, I like that show a lot, and I felt like the politics were necessary.
Yeah, no, it was.
I do use it as a comparison when other shows get political, because I feel like other shows have like, besides Attack on Titan season 4, it's usually like a sprinkle. But Brotherhood was like all about it.
I'm so upset because like the last 3 shows that I got really into were all Netflix animes, and all 3 of them got canceled, and I'm pissed.
Oh.
Which ones?
Ajin, Knights of Sidonia, and Blame. All 3 got canceled.
So
and I really liked all 3 of them.
I'm sorry.
Especially Knights of Sidonia. I absolutely loved it. And they were like, they left like the season 2 off on like this huge hanger, and we're gonna do more of it. And it's like Knights of Sidonia canceled. It's like,
it reminds me of Promised Neverland.
On the bright side, it could have been worse. Here's the thing. I've been a fan of anime for a really long time. I used to be the vice president of my anime club in college. I was that nerd. And so I have seen many an anime either have a first season and get canceled, or the animation studio goes bankrupt and can't make it anymore. Gangsta asshole. But the thing is there's also ones that get multiple seasons and then they're just garbage. Tokyo Ghoul. Why? Why did they do that?
I don't know.
Why did they do that to me?
I don't know. That's so genuine.
It's Neverland. God, it's just so. But then there's anime that has a manga. It has a manga that has a clear story that you follow, and all of a sudden it's just like, but what if we didn't? And it's like, you cannot deviate. And they're like, no, we're just gonna do our own thing. Blue Exorcist. Randomly, the last 2 episodes of Blue Exorcist, the first season, they were like, let's just fuck shit up. And it's like, no.
Yep.
Don't do that. And then they retconned it.
So much better.
But they retconned it in the second season. If you go to the second season, it's like the last 2 episodes of the first season didn't happen. They're just like, by the way, we realized that was a mistake and we're going back. You also have shows that never finished, but their manga did. Soul Eater, Dead Man Wonderland, a bunch of shows.
Oh, Dead Man Wonderland was fantastic, but they excluded so many characters in the show, and it makes me sad.
Oh yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about Dead Man though, is because they only had the budget, because they only did 1 season for it, and that was on Netflix too, and they only had the budget for the 1 season, and it did not get renewed.
Heartbreaking. Also, then you have series that have been around for forever, and for some reason, only 1 animation studio has ever figured out how to do it okay, but you've never had the full series animated well, and that's Berserk. I don't know what it is about Berserk, but it's so good. The manga is phenomenal, and then no one knows how to adapt it. The first 90s anime was really good, in my opinion.
That's what I've been hearing.
And then everything else is just kind of it's okay.
3D
The
anime.
movies were okay, but the CGI anime that they did, it was terrible. And I've just kind of lost hope that Berserk will ever be animated well. And I'll be honest, the CGI Berserk anime turned a lot of people off of the CGI, which I actually don't think CGI is bad if it's done well. Ajin had it, Dorohedoro has it, but if it's implemented well into the series, you don't really notice it as much. Berserk's was just so bad, so I'm just like, ugh. But it's unfortunate because you have so many anime series that just end on cliffhangers. Panty and Stocking did, which broke my soul.
Sorry.
Heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
Oh yeah.
You get a lot of stuff like that. Dorohedoro's not canceled though, so if you're looking for a Netflix show that's not canceled,
do you like
there
that
you
one?
go. Oh my god.
I was looking at it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's my favorite manga in the entire
She
world.
never stops talking
Is it really?
about it
Yeah.
whenever I stop
It's my
by her
favorite manga in the
streams.
entire world.
I ask
It
her for
is.
anime
Add it to my
recommendations. Have you watched it yet? I'm like, no, you better watch.
So like, it is my favorite manga in the entire world. The anime only has the first season, and it's good.
Mhm.
It's good. I like how they animated the fight scenes, and I like how they put CGI with the fight scenes. But I do think, in the same way that I feel this way about Mira's art, it is very hard to translate Hayashida's art, Dorohedoro, to an anime. And they did really
Yeah.
well with her settings, but like her art is very gritty and detailed. So that does not translate as well in the anime. So I do recommend watching it, but I also will always tell people it is really good to read it, because at the end of every chapter there are bonus curses that are also really funny. It's basically like a bonus chapter.
Yeah.
And they're all super funny. Like all the characters are hilarious. You end up not feeling like there's like one true enemy. Maybe you will. I don't know, it depends on what characters you like. But I
Yeah.
felt like when I read through it, there was never really one true enemy or one true like good person. I liked them all. I thought every single character was funny.
Yeah.
And it's done. It's officially completed. The manga is anyway. The anime hopefully continues until the end. Otherwise, I'll be really
Hopefully.
sad.
Hopefully.
But
No, because I
really
always
good.
liked what the Netflix studios do with the animation style, that CG kind of pseudo 3D with the 2D feels. Like it's so weird. But like yeah, like Dora Hidora and Ajin both I think have done that really well.
Nice. I'll have to watch those because I don't think I've watched either of those.
I
And
really liked Ajin.
I'm kind of going
if you
lot of
watch
people
that one,
didn't.
just prepare for it to be canceled and not have more.
Yeah, because
Yay!
it's not getting continued.
That's like Elfen
It's a
Lied.
fun watch, and then that's it.
Elfen
The
Lied
manga's
was...
still going though, I think.
Elfen
It might
Lied
be
is
done.
still going for manga?
both. Huh?
Yeah, Ajin has a manga, yeah.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
Ajin? Oh, I thought you were talking about...
Both Ajin and the Knights of Sidonia still have a manga. I think Knights of Sidonia is technically a visual novel, but yeah, but those are both still ongoing, I think.
Okay. Visual novels are fun. Don't knock them until you try them, okay?
Oh yeah, I mean,
They're good.
the same. It's the
Solo
same
leveling?
thing. Like people, visual novels. Like it's an American manga. Deal with yourself.
Just read it. It's good. Fucking...
So like, I feel like visual novels, it's sad because like when I played through AI the Somnium Files, I'm not done obviously, but I'm getting close. I feel like visual novels get a lot of criticism because people are just like, well, it's just a book. Like it's just like a book. It's not a game. But like, to be honest, after playing through AI the Somnium Files, it came out in 2019, and I honestly think I would have picked it if it hadn't been for Sekiro, because I'm pretty sure Sekiro came out in 2019, I think. If it hadn't been for that
maybe.
game, I would have said that AI the Somnium Files would have been my game of the year for that year, because the
Wow.
writing is so impeccable, the plot is so great, the characters are so great. I was fully invested in the game. It didn't feel like a book to me. There was enough like gameplay aspect that like I genuinely enjoyed the experience, and it was kind of a nice break from like action-packed games where I have to focus a ton. I like how that's my visual. Not how I play an action game. I hold my controller like this. But anyway, I digress. Like, it was a nice break from that because I have found that, like, especially with streaming variety and that being my main core interest of games is action RPGs or JRPGs. It is nice to have a game where I can just like take a break and chill with my community, but also have like a fun, engaging game. And I'm very excited that that game's going to have a sequel. The person who wrote that game actually did the Zero Escape games, which are also really good. So I feel like if you know those games and you've heard about them at least, it's a really good experience. So I don't know. I feel like visual novels get a bad rep because a lot of people just think you're just reading. But there's actually usually more put into it to make it a better experience. Like Steins Gate was also a visual novel before it was an anime. So there's just like, I don't know. It made me want to go and try more visual novels, to be honest, because they're very comfy to play. They remind me of Animal Crossing and stuff. Like I can just chill in my bed and like play.
Yeah.
I've grown to appreciate
the game
those
plays
types of
itself
games
at that
more
point.
as well. Yeah, I've grown to appreciate those games more as well. Like Animal Crossing, I've been playing more recently. I've been getting back into Stardew Valley. Fucking Final Fantasy as well is very story driven. I've learned to love MMOs and everything, and that the only skill I need to have is to learn what button to push next. Like,
Oh yeah, you don't even need to worry about that where you are too. You
No,
don't have to
yeah,
learn how
all
to
I
press
need to
your
do is, like,
buttons until
figure
you
out-
get to level 80.
exactly. So I just need to figure out what buttons I need to push next to, like, in like which order to be able to like play correctly. And then whereas it's like it's a
MMOs are
nice.
easy.
Oh yeah, they're pretty easy. It's like a big difference from Monster Hunter, where it's just like, all right, this attack is coming towards you. You have to dodge that, and you have to. It's not a big circle that's going around you.
Yeah.
But
Have
it's
you
a big
ever
change.
played any of the like other Final Fantasy games, like the non-MMO ones?
I played Final Fantasy VII Disc 1. That's about it.
Has like the MMO encouraged you to try any of the older ones?
I really want to try them out. I'm gonna play through classic Final Fantasy VII, and then I'll play a different one, then go back to the remastered. I feel like if I were to play the old one, then the remaster back to back, that'd be a lot of like 7.
I can tell you, you should not play the remaster first.
Yes,
That is
no,
the
I won't
only
be.
thing I can say is like the remake.
It's
I
different.
feel like they marketed the remake a little weird because the remake actually 100% wants you to have known at least what the compilation of Final Fantasy VII had in the story. Not even just the original Final Fantasy VII. You have to know Crisis Core too, in my opinion. Like, because there are things like referenced in there that have to do with like the entire compilation of Final Fantasy VII. So I kind of feel like I feel bad for people who started with the remake thinking like, oh, I don't have to play these ones, because you kind of do. It's actually really sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will just say really quickly, Crisis Core.
So after the Final Fantasy VII, I'll go to Crisis Core.
Well, it's a prequel, so you can do either one. You can do it first, or you can
it's
do
a
it after.
prequel?
It came out after, it came out after the original Final Fantasy VII. But because I didn't play the original Final Fantasy growing up, my family was not really big on turn-based RPGs. Because when you're a kid, you play the games that, like, your parents get you. And my dad is the person who introduced me to video games, but he was really big on like action adventure games. So like, we owned a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo 64. My dad was big on Zelda. So I played A Link to the Past and I played Ocarina of Time. Those were like my introductory games. So those are the kind of games that I grew up with, to give you an idea.
Did you guys both grow up with like parents that love video games then? Because I never had that. Like, both my parents were not
Yeah.
into video games.
Yeah.
No.
Y'all?
My dad was a big fan. Like, and like Zelda was our big thing of like, that's what he introduced me to. And then I would get every Pokemon game because I was
Damn.
obsessed with like Pokemon and things like that. I would love to think, like, every time I think I'm done with Pokemon, that series just pulls me back in. Like, I'm a Pokemon Go enthusiast. I do everything Pokemon related.
You live in a good place to do
yeah.
Pokemon Go. I live in the middle of nowhere. I freaking get just like nothing but Caterpies and Butterfrees where I
Well,
live. It's just that's it.
I will say they improved it a bit, because like in COVID, they were trying to encourage people not to go outside, obviously, and they had raids and stuff, but people couldn't go outside. You were told not to go group up outside, so they did remote raiding. So now you can invite friends from like all over the world to do raids, and all you have to have is like a remote raid pass to join. So you have access to like raids that you may not have had access to if you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's so
So
cool.
that's kind of
actually.
nice. Like, they've added
Very
a few
nice.
things that have made the experience better. You can battle people now too. That used to not be a thing. You can trade. Although I still think they should make trades.
Trading is so difficult. It's based on your
yeah, 'cause
friendship
you have to be
level and
and how close you
It's awful.
are. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I think they need to change that, which hopefully they do, especially because like with COVID and everything, it makes the most sense to change that when people can't be visiting people.
I wish they
Yeah.
advertised
Hopefully.
it better, because it's not like they're not really advertising Pokemon Go at the moment. I mean, they like
anymore,
whenever
no.
whenever there's a
No,
new
not
region, they
anymore.
advertise it, but then that's it. It's like
The only
Sinnoh,
time that they
Unova, and then that's it.
yeah, that's the only time that they do. And I mean, especially like recently, because they tried to take away a lot of the changes that were introduced from COVID, and then the community had a really big backlash to that. Like, they were changing the distance for Pokestops again. They were restricting them, and it's like, well, one, COVID isn't gone, and two, we actually really like the radius being larger because it makes it safer for us to play it. We don't have to like cross streets. We don't have to go inside buildings. Like it's actually safer and more convenient for everyone. So do that. and they did, which was the nice thing. They kept, like, they were going to take out remote raiding, and it's staying in the game now, which is
because more
amazing.
people are playing it.
And I think
because the community just had like a huge amount of backlash. Like, and like when I say like the community, I mean like community leaders and gigantic Pokemon content creators, like people that push this game still to this day, are like, hey, we can't do this. Like you guys can't take these changes away. You will literally destroy this community.
And honestly, it would have, because I feel like it opened the door to so many people. Because the sad thing about Pokemon Go is that if you live in a rural area, it's extremely difficult for you to be able to play, if at all. Like a lot of people lost inspiration to play because there were no Pokestops, there were no gyms, etc. So it's like, even if you got, for example, like a lure module, if you don't have a Pokestop to put that up at, you're not gonna encourage like Pokemon to come around. It's a useless item for you. So I like that they added the remote raid passes and things like that, because at least even if you couldn't get to like a Pokestop because it was farther away, I could invite a friend who lived in a different state or in a rural area to a raid. They could join me and they could get a Pokemon that they may not have been able to get. So it's kind of nice, and I'm glad that they keep it, because it's been encouraging people who may not live in like the most Pokemon Go active areas to play a little more. I still think there's more that they can do for people in rural areas. I think they just have to reevaluate their game model in those areas specifically, because you're not going to have a lot of Pokestops. They're going to have to make them for like fields and stuff, like just help people out, But they did add like Pokestop scanning and stuff like that, where you can go and like submit Pokestops.
Yes,
like,
that was the thing that I was just going to bring up, is that you can do that. Like Niantic has a Pokestop nomination like form that you can do, and it's it's really not entirely tedious. The only problem is that you do have to be level 38 to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the only. They should probably lower that, because a lot of people...
They should probably fix that. I've been playing for 3 years and I'm still not 38.
Yeah, I'm almost level 31. Because I've been playing on and off.
27.
I don't play I have it on my phone, but that's it.
It's fun. I think if there was a time to get back into it, it's now more than ever, because they've added so much.
Okay.
But like, I don't know, there's still some things that they need to improve. I do think the Pokestop nomination thing should definitely have the level lowered, because a lot of people who live in areas that need to nominate them probably aren't that level and wouldn't be that for like years. So that's the thing. But yeah, I would say I like how I'm gonna loop the conversation back around to the games we were all raised on. But yeah, I didn't like. I was raised on Pokemon and Zelda, so like those are my like two nostalgic like obsessions. But Final Fantasy I was not. So I played all of those like 3 years ago for the first time. Not all of them. I shouldn't say all of them. I played OGFF7. I played Crisis Core first, and I feel like it helped me understand all of the confusing plot holes in Final Fantasy VII, the original, a bit better. Because I have to say, Final Fantasy VII is a good game. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy. My apologies to the Final Fantasy VII community. It's not my favorite.
They're all offended.
That they are that. I feel like if you say that one Final Fantasy game is not your favorite, there are like some people who get really upset. So I'm saying I'm sorry. That is Final Fantasy IX. It's just the truth.
Don't be sorry. Just that's your opinion. Just be like, fuck 'em.
Like, listen, it's not my fault that Final Fantasy IX is just leagues better in every single way.
It's 9.
It's not my fault. But my favorites are 9 is the top. It's my computer wallpaper. It's everything. I love 9 with all my heart. And then it goes like, I think a tie between 6 and 10 are my like tied for second place. Those 10? Are the ones that I've thought.
Wow.
I loved 10. But here's the thing, I do not think it's better than 9. Crisis Core I don't include in the mainline like ranking because it's not a mainline game. But if I did include it, it would be 9, Crisis Core, and then 6 and 10. Because I love Zach there. No, I don't like 10
What order should I play these games in? Jesus.
So it kind of depends. Oh my god,
good luck.
You do not have to play them in order. The way that I usually recommend it is it depends on what kind of games you like, what games frustrate you. So the thing for me is, for example, 9 does not really hold your hand. It's very open worldy, and you should probably be comfortable with that. Like, you want to be comfortable with exploring, you want to be comfortable with level grinding, for example. If that's something that you're not like super comfortable with starting out with, I always recommend 10 as a good starting point because it's very linear. So you're not going to have to worry about not knowing where to go. Final Fantasy VI, I do not recommend as a first game for anyone who has never played a Final Fantasy game before, because it is very true to traditional turn-based Japanese like RPGs, in the sense of you will not know where to go unless you talk to one specific NPC in a specific town, and if you never talk to that person, you will not know where to go. Like, there's one part of that game where your party is split up and you need to find where everybody is, so you have to be talking to every single person in every town. But the game expects you to do that because that's how old JRPGs were. Is that they expected you to talk to everyone.
Yeah, a lot of people miss that style of just like gaming. Like, a lot of people feel like a lot of games nowadays are very hand-holdy in a way. Do you guys feel that?
Well, it's because these things weren't designed for the West, right? Like,
well, no, just
like
games in
there's
general.
a reason why they're called. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is like there's a reason why these were called JRPGs, and like we still call them that because they were designed for that audience. And we, being a Western audience, didn't have a lot of that exposure. Like, yeah, because I mean, like for a lot of us, and I don't mean everyone, but for a lot of us, our experience with RPG games started with like Pokemon, right? And Pokemon is an incredibly linear kind of like style game.
It doesn't
the first time I played, it doesn't get any more linear than Pokemon. And like, I played Chrono Cross, and I was fucking lost. I didn't know what to do, and so I was so happy that I had like 2 people in my chat, like literally holding my hand through the entire game, and it made it so much more enjoyable.
But I mean, like, I think so. For me, it's kind of, I don't think that games have gotten too handholdy. I just think that they've understood that people nowadays are not talking to everybody in a village when they play a game. Okay. I feel like with those games, the expectation was you do talk to everyone, because you don't know if they're going to give you an item, you don't know if they're going to tell you where to go next, et cetera, et cetera. It was almost expected that because there wasn't, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. Like
an expectation.
Final Fantasy VI came out on the Super Nintendo, right? So I feel like it was 2D. They wanted to give you like a whole experience, but they couldn't do it in the way that like games can now. Like, you look at games like The Witcher 3, it's open world, it's 3D. Like, you can get like this whole experience from it. They couldn't offer that, even if that, like, they had a vision like that. Like, if they could do it 3D, this is how the world would be. This is like how you would interact with villages and stuff. This is how you would talk to people. They were limited with like the hardware that they had at the time. So I feel like they wanted to give you that experience with interacting with all of those people, but they just didn't have the means to make it as interactive without kind of encouraging you to talk to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like that was kind of the need back then for those types of things. I don't think we necessarily need to go back to that, because it is very easy to get lost if you miss talking to one person.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like it's at a good median with games now. Like, I feel like it's in a good place where like, okay, we kind of understand where people want. They kind of want like the sweet middle. They want the cream in the middle. They want the best of I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. They want the best of both sides.
They want the cream.
They want the cream. But
they want the cream. They want
I was thinking about the Oreo. Yeah, I was thinking about the Oreos. I was thinking about Oreos.
Wait, you don't eat your Oreos cream first?
No, I eat the whole thing. Sometimes without milk.
Oh no, I'm cream first.
Your cream first?
Put that bad boy open, cream
eat
first, cookie
the
after.
Oreo like a cookie.
Absolutely not.
Here's the thing for me. Why would I eat the cookie part after the cream is gone? Who the frick cares about the cookie part of an Oreo? Like,
I'm a sociopath, so
I get like that's but you're not the only person who does that. Like that's like a common thing that it's like
We
you're
have a
supposed to
club.
eat the cream first, and I'm like, but what? Like then I'm just eating these 2 chocolate wafer things that like have no cream, and it just feels like, why would I even do that? If I'm gonna get that, why don't I just get like, why don't they just sell the tub of Oreo cream separate?
because it's the same reason why you need to put cream cheese on a bagel. It's not socially acceptable just to eat cream cheese out of a tub with a spoon. I'm just saying.
It's just like you're the type of person that would eat s'mores separately.
Separate, like you just mean like just like a roasted marshmallow?
You eat the roasted marshmallow, then you eat the graham
Absolutely
cracker,
not.
and then eat the Hershey bar. No,
Absolutely not. No, because the s'mores is an experience. Yeah, because you put that together. It's about an ambiance experience. The Oreo comes pre-made. I want to deconstruct that bitch.
you put it. Dip
All right,
it
let
in
me
the
know.
milk
Let me know
and
in the comments
everything.
below. Let me know if you're in the comments below if you're the cream first club.
My God.
Where's my Oreo milk people? Come on.
Oh, I mean, I do that too.
Do you
If I
put the
have
fork
milk.
in? Do you stick the fork in the middle, and then you put Oreo in there?
No, that dirties a fork. You know?
Because you're putting it in.
You just dip it.
all the way in.
Yeah, you just. Oh
You
no,
can
yeah,
put it
I
all the
drown
way
it.
in.
Put a little milk on your fingers.
you
Who
mean
cares?
like? Oh, I don't do that. I just dip it.
Oh, okay.
I'm a simple
So Final
person.
Fantasy.
Yes, back
I actually
back
had
to that.
something that I wanted to add to that before I derailed this into cream first. Because at least you make a good point that there was a hardware problem like back then, right? And it's really cool that when you look at those older games, the decisions that they made, like the gameplay decisions, the design decisions that they made were because of limitations of hardware, of memory mostly. A lot of the Castlevania games have like shit mechanics and bad dialogue because they didn't have enough storage to fit the whole game on there. So they go back and they pull parts of it out. And that's how you get these like really weird dialogues like in Symphony of the Night, you know? But
I did not know
I think that's like
that.
a really neat thing because, like, I mean, think about like how big of a game any Final Fantasy game is. That's huge.
Yeah.
They had to put
And
it
you're
on
putting it
multiple
on into an
discs.
SNES cartridge.
Oh yeah, then.
Well,
okay.
and even the PS1 games. I mean, Final Fantasy 9
yeah.
was what, 4 discs, or was that? I forget which one was 4 discs. Final Fantasy 7 was multiple discs, and 9 was multiple discs. So
Final
it's like, what do you
Fantasy
think of that?
13. Final Fantasy 13 on the Xbox 360 was 3 discs. It didn't
Yeah, I haven't
stop
even
just at the
played that one
PS1.
yet.
It kept going.
What?
I haven't even played 13 yet. I don't like. I plan on doing all of the Final Fantasy games at some point, but I still have to do 4 and 5. I'm starting with like I went back to the older ones because
Get them out of the way.
well, kind of, but
Did
they've
that make
also
the game
been
cost
really
any extra?
charming. Like I actually really liked 6 a lot, but just the reason I don't recommend it as like a first one is because it does not walk you through it
Yeah.
at all. There's also a lot of like hidden dungeons that you can miss.
Okay.
Like it's just I would not recommend it as a starting one. It's got a
Yeah.
great story and great characters, but there's another game that I could recommend that's not Final Fantasy, but it was made by Squaresoft, and so it was technically like Square Enix before it was Square Enix
Oh,
before
the
they like
carding
combined.
one? The fantasy
No.
card? No.
Mm-mm. Super Mario RPG. I love Super Mario RPG.
There it is.
I
Paper
played
Mario?
that game for the first time.
Super Mario RPG.
Paper Mario is actually,
That's
I
just
think
what
it's
it's
supposed to be
called.
a spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG, but Super Mario RPG came out on the Super Nintendo, and
heard
it
of
was done by Squaresoft, and it's basically like a turn-based RPG, but Mario. You get to have Bowser in your party, which I think is so cool.
What?
And it's
Game is
really
sick.
fun. They have like a hidden boss that's very like Final Fantasy inspired in it. That's not really a spoiler because it's like a separate thing. It's like a secret boss thing
It's a
that they
whole
have
other
in like
thing.
all
What?
other Final Fantasy games. But it's super cool. I recommend if you haven't tried it before that you definitely give it a go because I honestly think it's one of like the best Super Nintendo games. I've ever played, and that's saying a lot
Incredibly
because Link to
charming.
the Past is on there, and so is Final Fantasy VI. So like that's saying a lot because I liked it a lot. It was really charming and just really cute, and the gameplay was surprisingly fun. Like I feel like it aged very well, and it doesn't look like it's on the Super Nintendo when you play it.
Yeah. The cool thing about it is like you're exactly right. It plays like a Paper Mario game, you know, like the turn-based combat, your different party members do different things, and you're exploring this isometric world at the same time. And I mean, I've personally never played it because games like this do not hold my attention because I can't. But I watch people play the crap out of these things. Like speedruns of Super Mario RPG are really cool to watch. It's just an incredibly charming game. If you like those kinds of things and you haven't done it yet, can recommend.
That's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
So Corey,
they
when are you
mixed,
playing
like,
Super Mario RPG?
Yeah, when are you playing it? I mean, I like it because they mixed the platforming aspects of Mario with the turn-based RPG aspects of Final Fantasy, but they've just never, they don't put it on enough. Like, I'm so sad that it's still not on the Switch as part of like the Super Nintendo
Yeah,
like
that would've
collection.
been-
I'm waiting for
That's
that.
surprising.
I'd be down to
That's
give it a
actually
shot.
really surprising.
Do you guys feel that your perspective on video games has changed? Like for me, like I used to be like super impatient with it, and then now I'm just like, I want like a really deep story. I want to get involved in the characters and
The
everything.
exact
and
opposite.
stuff.
I'm the exact opposite from that.
I think my perspective has changed a little bit, but not in the sense of like what I want out of a game. It's more so like I've always liked good stories. I always have. But I also specifically like I never thought that I would enjoy turn-based because I just never grew up on it. Like I liked Pokemon, but for me I was just like, I don't know if I would enjoy Final Fantasy. So I put it off for so long. And then I actually played it and I'm like, I really like these. Same with like visual novels. Like my first visual novel was Danganronpa. So I didn't think that I would really enjoy that type of game. I was under the same impression of it's a book. So like who cares? But then Danganronpa was released and before it even got released here, there was somebody who translated like the entire game, and just I read through it and I thought it sounded really cool. So I tried it out and I really liked it. So I think my perspective has just been like I shouldn't write off any type of game just because it doesn't seem like it might not be my thing. I should try it out and see if I like it because I've been pleasantly surprised in the past. So
That's a good approach.
I just have turned myself off of all gacha games completely. I'm sorry, Genshin Impact. I'm in a minority of people that thinks that gacha games are a little predatory in a sense, in the fact of like, I feel like a lot of people say like you don't have to spend money on it, it's free to play, but I feel like you can't control who plays the game, and there are a lot of people who could fall into that addiction of like, I need this character, I need to spend the money to get this character. Or it's not even about wanting a character, it's the exhilaration they feel from like the excitement they feel from doing that like gacha pull and waiting to see what they got and if they got something good, because there are people who can easily get addicted to that feeling you get, that like rush of adrenaline. So it's like
literally me.
Exactly. So I avoid gacha games entirely. Like I love the character designs of Genshin Impact. I think they're beautiful.
They're gorgeous
but I have,
characters, yeah.
I've purposefully avoided that game because I just I do not think that gacha games are a good model, personally. I think they're just they can encourage like really bad behaviors, and I think you can end up spending more than a game is worth in the long run.
Absolutely.
By spending thousands of dollars trying to pull these characters. And it's
people-
almost encouraged that you pull characters more, because the more from what I don't know Genshin specifics, but it
There's,
seems
like, a
like
whole
the more you
system
pull of
behind
one
it.
character, you can get like a better version
100%.
of said character. So I'm just like, I get that you can do free to play, but I also feel like that's not how everybody does it. And I do feel like you can spend. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's like pulling duplicates in that game there's actually a benefit to it, because like after you get 10 duplicates, it upgrades the one that you have. So like there is a benefit to like pulling over and over and over again. It's actually like a huge mechanic of the game, and not just like, get your waifu of the week.
It's
really
it's not a
scary
one
to
and
be
done
honest.
kind of thing.
I think
That's not my thing.
I think it's one of the reasons why I probably haven't played it in a while because I'm scared to fall back into that because I got my Klee and I was really happy with it. And I don't know. Like I guess I could go back into it being like I don't need any more character. I could just go with the characters I have and then whatever points I have, just put it in. But then I feel like down the line there might be a character I'm just like, ooh, maybe I could spend a little money on this one and try and get it.
Yeah.
And then it goes back into that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing that I know that I would fall into is because I've already seen, like, I've had cosplays for the characters because I love the character designs. I think the art that they do is wonderful.
You did Ka-Ching?
It's amazing.
I cosplayed Mona and I cosplayed Ganyu, and I know for a fact, like, this was before Ball and like all of those people were released. I loved Ganyu and I liked Mona a lot. And so I thought to myself, like, well, rather than try to spend money on pulling these characters, why don't I just buy the cosplays and just dress up as the characters instead? Because
Probably
then
cheaper.
I don't fall into the trap of me knowing there's always going to be new characters that are going to come out. And most likely they're going to be characters that I really want. Like Ball got released. And then apparently in her story, they showed another character. I was like, oh, she's really cute. And then Hu Tao is there too. And I'm like, they just keep adding characters that I think, oh, like I would want that character if I played. And then I think to myself, I would probably spend a ton of money. So it's better for me personally to avoid it. I think there are some people who have great self-control and can play that game and manage it. But I feel like if you can't, there's no way to control like who plays and who doesn't. And I feel like there are also people who just get trapped into it, and they just spend thousands of dollars. And the game is beautiful, but I don't think it's worth thousands of dollars per person.
Well,
like,
Jesus, there's people that I've known that like they set up publicly. It's like, yeah, I spent like thousands of this game. I was like, Jesus, thousands? That's a lot.
I've made that mistake only once, and it was on a little game called League of Legends, and I have told myself I will never ever fall into that trap again. I played League of Legends for several years.
League of Legends?
No,
Skins.
it's not. It's not a gacha. It's skins, and okay. So technically, that's not true. There was a gacha aspect in the sense of you could purchase mystery gifts for your friends, and the mystery gifts that you would purchase for your friends were just like they could get any skin. It would be like it could be like a legendary skin. It could be like one of the like super expensive skins. So you would buy it for your friend. Yeah, it could just be one of the stupid recolors. But you would buy them for your friends, and your friends would buy it for you. But you ended up spending so much money because it was like, oh, I gifted one of my friends like all of the terrible skins of like one champion, and I got like a pulse fire skin, and they were like, what the hell? So it's like there is, and it still exists. I checked because I play ARAMs every now and then, but I never play normal League anymore. I can't uninstall the game because I know how much I've spent on it. So I'm like, I feel like I have put so much money into this that I have to play it sometimes.
Yeah, Genshin's still on my taskbar.
And like for me, it's like I know that it was all over time, like not all at once, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, this game is not worth that amount of money per person. Like it's just not worth that amount of money per person. And that's why I kind of feel like but the thing that I liked about League is that I knew what I was paying for if I was buying a skin. Like I was guaranteed to get the skin that I wanted if I paid for it, other than the mystery gift thing.
You're purchasing an item, not a chance for an item.
Exactly.
And I kind of wish that like the games like Genshin Impact had that option where it's like, do you want to pull and have like the pull be a cheaper option? Like, do you want to pull and like gamble for it, or do you want to pay like a higher amount or whatever? Like, and guarantee that you get this thing. I feel like all gachas should just add that option, make it more expensive, so that like okay, like, but give the option so that way it's like, I would feel more comfortable playing it that way. I'm sure a lot of other people would feel comfortable playing it that way, and it just makes it so that you don't essentially trap people in the whole like whatever.
Yeah, this is the problem with that, is that the problem with that is you're forcing people, or you're introducing an option for people to use that will make you, the developer, less money alternatively. That's just why they won't do it.
but
we're
like,
just not gonna say that.
Gotcha games are legitimately designed to create as much revenue as possible by creating this limited feeling and this lottery system.
And Genshin's doing a fantastic job of that.
Have you? I don't know how like involved all of you guys are with this kind of a topic, but have you ever looked at the science, the psychology behind lotteries, like behind gambling? There is a mathematical equation that has been determined through both statistics and human learning that is the perfect ratio for any sort of gambling system. It's like the golden odds that your system should have, so it keeps people addicted to it. Because I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Like gotchas are legitimately, I'm saying it, gotchas are gambling addictions. Like, I mean, but like I'm in one too.
So that's you in Golden Saucer.
I spend a shit ton of money on Pokemon cards. Like, it's the exact same thing. I buy
Animal
a pack.
Crossing cards with the Series 5.
Animal Crossing cards. Yeah,
that's me with manga books, but I get. Like that,
but you get the manga.
Really.
Like the thing, you know?
That's true.
Yeah,
I was like thinking about like there's
a difference between there's a difference between like, hi, yes, I would like to buy this thing right here, versus taking this mystery box and saying I'm going to pay X dollars for this mystery box and open it up and it can have a value between 1 and 1,000.
Why do you feel like for a manga mystery box you get like the guaranteed manga on top, and then you get like 3 mangas in there, like in the box? That's like from random series.
I feel like certain stores will do it for sure, but I'm just I would be too afraid of getting a manga I don't want to read.
Or one that you already have. And then what do you do with it?
Here's the thing: I don't own a lot of manga. Like the hard copies of it.
Not yet. Once you start signing up to this subscription service, so you're gonna have every manga.
I started collecting the hardcovers.
I have
nice.
I have the hardcovers of Berserk. I do, and I also have all of Tokyo Mew Mew. Thank you very much. That was my first manga I ever owned. No regrets. All of Tokyo Mew Mew. I remember I retweeted a meme on Twitter the other day that was like, you first start reading Tokyo Mew Mew, and you're like, oh, like cat, like meow or whatever, because like it's all about all of these girls who like they become magical girls, but their DNA is infused with what's it called, endangered species across the planet, and they have to protect the planet. And then it's like by the end of the book, you're like, I am now an environmentalist. Like by the end of the manga, you're like, I am an environmentalist. It's so good. I love
Tokyo cute animal cat girls. I am an environmentalist.
I am an environmentalist, but yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like one of them is like infused with an endangered like cat type species, and the other ones are like all other endangered species. So it was really cool. I liked that. That was my first manga that I ever owned in like middle school. So I've had that forever.
Jesus.
But and then I'm eventually gonna have the whole Demon Slayer manga because I pre-ordered you know how like for some series they create like those big like here's the entire collection and you can just buy the entire collection. I just ordered that because they released one for Demon Slayer. It's supposed to come out this month, so I pre-ordered that because it is so hard to find the individual copies for Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man,
especially
Demon Slayer. It's impossible.
I had to reach out to someone that lives in a different state to just be like, all right, is there any Chainsaw Man like manga available in your state? And they're just like, yes. I'm like, cool, send it to me, I'll pay you.
It's literally impossible. Like I went to go look just to see if they had like the first volume of Chainsaw Man, because I like reading manga, like the actual manga, if I can.
I do too. I love it.
But impossible. It's impossible. Like those series are so popular right now that it is so hard to find. Like you could maybe find the first volume, but not the second, and then the fourth. And it's like I can't do that.
The anime is not even out right now for Chainsaw Man. Imagine when it's out.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna cry.
It's all over.
So I'm just waiting.
So if you see volume, for anyone's listening to the podcast right now, if you have volumes 2 and up, please DM me because I will pay you.
Amazing.
So at
See,
least
I have a curse when it comes to buying manga. I'm
Well-
cursed when it comes to buying manga, because every manga that I buy, because I usually don't read the popular stuff, because like it has a TV show, I'd rather just watch that. I usually try to find something else that's like a little less popular. This probably makes sense, but every manga that I buy gets canceled
But Jal,
every single time.
whenever you
Well,
go to a bookstore,
That's
let me know.
Okay.
They have It's All Man
It's All Man?
volumes 2 and up.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
only
yeah.
got volume
Watch
one.
it.
I wouldn't be
Mew
caught. I wouldn't be caught dead in a bookstore right now. I don't want to leave my house.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, why?
I was
Well-
I'm
confused
not
for a
leaving this
second.
place, dude.
What was I gonna say? Oh, the stuff that you said about gambling, though, I hadn't looked up any of the psychology, but that makes sense. It makes sense that that's kind
It
of like what
does.
they play into, and I totally
It's how they
understand
make
why
slot
they do
machines.
it. And like that's how they make money. I just feel like it would make me feel so much more comfortable if they just offer.
Oh yeah, no, for
that I
sure.
want.
That's and that's. But like, I'm the exact same way. Like I know I don't get into those kinds of games because I know I'm going to spend a bunch of money. I do that all the time. Like with mobile gacha games, I played 2 of them in college, and I realized how much money I spent on those. And then I was also playing a MOBA, buying skins in the MOBA, also spending money on that. And also playing Pokemon and buying boxes of Pokemon, wasting money on that. I definitely have that personality type. An addictive personality that likes that rush, that gambling rush.
You get that rush. That is the same thing that goes with like shiny hunting for shiny Pokemon that you and I do. Like that's a very like low key, not low key. It's a high
And
rush.
the only thing that it costs is my time.
Exactly.
See, and that's like the that was the thing for me with the Animal Crossing cards before Series 5. Series 5, because I actually want to try doing the polls and see how I like it. I'm never a big gambler or anything like that. Like, even when I've gone to Vegas in the past, when I grew up out here and my family would go to Vegas sometimes, I never gambled because all I could think of was like, I could gamble this money, but I could also just go buy this thing at this store.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I'm always just like, why would I like I can never justify in my brain like spending money on the chance of something. Like for me, it's always like I would rather just go buy the actual thing. And that's what I did with some of the Animal Crossing cards. So like before New Horizons came out, a lot of the old Animal Crossing cards were not being printed at the time because there was such a high demand, and they also just obviously were closed for COVID. So they couldn't produce more. Yeah.
So for the Animal Crossing cards, what was involved in that? Like what?
It's an NFC. It's an amiibo, but it's a card instead.
Yeah.
You get a chance to get the card?
It's a pack of cards. It's like a Pokemon pack of cards, and it comes with 5 of them. Right?
Yeah, it comes with 5. Well, the Series 5 comes with 6. You get a bonus one, but usually it's like 5 of them. And I don't know what to tell you. But the thing is there's different series. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 now. 5 has all of the new villagers that were just added in the update, as well as like some of like the new villagers that were specific to New Horizons. So like Judy, Raymond, all those characters.
Shino,
but Shino's brand new to the update.
Oh yeah.
I want Shino so bad. But hold on, I'll have to like be right back for a second.
Oh my gosh, that one's completely green
screen. But
he's a green frog.
completely green screened. Wow, you got a menu card.
Yeah.
I actually like, because the series 1 through 4 were not like being printed anymore at the very start of the pandemic, which was right before the game came out. My friend and we were in Facebook groups that were just Animal Crossing trade and buy and sell. And I kid you not, I like went so hard on getting all of the Animal Crossing villagers that I wanted in New Horizons. And there would be limits how much you could put the card up for sale like in these groups, which is why we liked them. Like you could not price gouge. I ended up getting like Marshall's card was selling for like $80 plus.
Wow,
like
that's
it got
cheap.
to the point where it was selling like over 100 at one point, and then Raymond came out and he dropped. Because like Raymond was in the game and everyone was like, I don't need Marshall anymore. And I'm like, well, that's
we have a
good
new
for people
pretty
who
boy.
want the card. Like, well, it was great for people who wanted Marshall's card because like the price dropped, but it was still so expensive. And then I also have
Is there a
I
chance
mean,
to
I
get
have
them in
all
the game
my
at all?
favorites, but
Yeah.
For those
But
villagers.
So there's an equal chance to get every villager in the game, but you have to remember there's over 400 villagers in the game.
yeah, there's a lot. So that's why a
The
lot
card guarantees it.
That's why a lot of people wanted the cards, is because you can at least
get it.
have the character, like you can pull them in and kick out unwanted villagers. That was the big thing, is you can kick out people that you didn't want in your village anymore if you had the amiibo. But there's definitely a chance to get any villager. It's just really low because they've added
tedious.
so many villagers over the years that like it's not guaranteed.
Yeah. So if you have the card for the villager then, and you put it into your village, if you kick them out, can you bring them back in with that same code?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like if
So-
you,
As long
so
as you
you
have the
can't
amiibo
bring,
card, you can always get
yeah,
them.
you can't bring back the person that you kicked out unless you have that person's card, basically.
Okay,
So like here, I'll give
so-
you an example. So say I have Marshall as
Yeah.
the card that I want to bring in, right? But say I was playing New Horizons for the first time and Judy's card wasn't out yet, so I kick out Judy, right? I could bring in any of the other amiibo cards that I have, but once I kick out Judy, I can't bring her back because I don't have her card. Even
Okay.
if I were to scan Marshall's card again, I can only bring back villagers that I have the card of.
Okay.
But now
so
you could bring back Judy if you get a card.
is it account locked too? So I can't give it to a person other like the.
Nope.
No,
the-
you can
You
give,
can trade it.
You can trade it. I've done that before. I helped people get dream villagers that they wanted with the cards that I had.
Oh.
Yep. And that's also a problem. That was a problem when New Horizons came out too, because people were like, let's say, getting Raymond's amiibo card, and then always constantly pushing Raymond into boxes, and then going to Nookopedia and saying Raymond in boxes 1,000 NMT. Give me 1,000 Nook Mile tickets for
I
it,
did it
please.
for
And
free.
then yeah, exactly. Like there are nice people that will do it for free, and then there are assholes that want to make a market out of this thing and sell this cat boy on the internet for fantasy currency. And it turned into this really weird black market of trading animals on the internet.
Raymond
It was really strange.
scary. Raymond had this scary chokehold over the Animal Crossing
So
community, and I
strange.
never understood it because he looked like Byakuya from Danganronpa, and I was just like, why? Like, I want to put a picture of Byakuya in there now because, like, legit, I did not understand why this cat had such a chokehold on the community. It confused the heck out of me. But then again, like, my favorite villagers are like squirrels and hamsters.
Yeah, squirrels.
So my favorite villager for the longest time was actually Static. And he's just like this little cranky
Hamster?
purple squirrel. He's a cranky
squirrel.
purple squirrel. He's been in the game for a long time, since before they added hammies. But I thought he was always so funny because he's this tiny little squirrel, and then when he speaks, his voice is like it's so deep. It's so deep. He's got one of the like deep voices. He's a cranky villager too. He used to be really mean in the older games, but they made them all really nice in New Horizons.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm glad
What's that
with
about?
the update. I'm hoping with the update they've given them all a bit more personality, especially the cranky villagers, because I felt like the cranky villagers were always supposed to be a bit sassier, and they made them really nice, which was odd. Like Static was always not nice. So I was kind of surprised that he was all of a sudden super nice. He was. There's like the clips, like you see on like those Animal Crossing bot pages where it's like they all have said like mean stuff in the past.
Yeah.
And in Animal Crossing New Horizons, it was like, we're all best friends. And I'm like, this is not the game that I remember. Which also makes me feel like,
Be a dick to me,
why
gosh.
do I want them to be mean to me? Like then I thought about it and I'm like, why do I want them to be mean? Like, isn't it nice that they're nice now?
Well, I mean,
But
I guess it's like
I
a
don't know.
personality trait that was kind of missing, and then they just replaced it entirely, and you're just like, that's not the character I remember.
Yeah,
It's like,
but
why
see,
have
like
you changed?
I haven't played a lot of the update because since my Switch broke and I needed a new one, I had to restart my island because the save doesn't back up on Animal Crossing the same way. You have to like manually do it, and I obviously didn't get to do that because I didn't expect my Switch to break. So my island is brand new, but you don't unlock a majority of the update until you have at least a 3-star island. So I'm like, I'm just chilling.
Yeah,
I'm minding my business.
after a year and a half, I
Hard
finally
time
picked it
traveling.
back up. And
I do time travel. No regrets.
Well, yeah, no, you play the game however you want. That's fine. Look, like, since I'm like first getting into the game, it's my first ever Animal Crossing game. I'm just like, I'm gonna take my time and ease into this.
Oh
before
yeah,
I'm
definitely
just, like,
do.
100 days in the future, it's just like, we haven't seen you for. But like,
see, I don't time travel that far. I
No.
only ever
Yeah,
do it
just a
like
day at a time.
And it's usually just because, like, for example, a lot of the time since I work during the day, I play at night, so I miss a lot of the day activities. So I'll go back in time so that I can catch things during the day, or do some of the day activities, and then I'll just move it back to the normal time. So like when I time travel, I don't really go too far in the future because I don't want my villagers to hate me. Is how I feel, and I feel like they do kind of hate you if you're gone for too long. But I am glad with the update.
You could do city ordinances now to make your like villagers more active in the evening, which I think is really nice.
I like that a lot. I like that they brought the ordinances back because
that was a New Leaf thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they brought
New
like
Leaf
a lot of stuff.
was my favorite.
From what it seems like, they brought a lot of stuff back from the older games.
This was literally the New Leaf update. This was amazing. I woke up to like 10 minutes before the Animal Crossing Direct, and I was like, I'll just throw it up on the TV. I was gonna watch it in Discord. I'll just throw it up on the TV. So I threw it up on the TV. I made coffee. I sat down. I started watching it, and I shit you not, I sat in front of the TV for the 20-minute Direct, literally sobbing watching this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is everything I needed.
So worth it. Like the thing is I went in expecting nothing. That's what I do with most game announcements. If you go in expecting nothing, you will not be disappointed.
Ever.
So like that's what I do. That is my one advice to everyone watching the podcast. If you ever go to Directs, don't expect
do that with our
anything.
podcast too. Come start every podcast with zero expectations.
Zero expectations.
So you are pleasantly surprised at the end of it that it was mediocre at best.
Oh my god. True.
What?
I think the people, the conversations have and the guests we have
They're
are just
meaningful.
absolutely amazing. It's the best podcast in the world.
It literally is the best podcast
The next
ever.
guest is with Rock.
You got Dwayne?
I got Dwayne.
Let's go.
It's about drive. It's about power. We stay hungry. We devour.
That went crazy viral. Holy shit.
Put in the hours. That's me on my Animal Crossing. Put in the hours. It takes 1 hour.
Yeah, you gotta get back. You gotta get back.
I gotta get it all back. I lost all my clothes. I lost everything. That's the thing is like I have a problem with like loving clothes and like always wanting to like wear new clothes. And I had that problem in Animal Crossing because they had so many cool clothes and I lost all.
And now there's even more.
I'm gonna.
They added
spend, like, all my
over
bells on?
4,000 items in the game with the update. Over 4,000. People were like expecting like maybe a couple hundred, like not even, right? Froggy chair with a family. Froggy chair has a family now. We have different colors of Froggy chair.
Gosh.
I actually, so I know what you're talking about.
Viral.
What? Oh yeah. Well, because it was a Rise shit post. Rise shit posts always do amazing on Twitter, guys.
Apparently mine became a Rise
shit
shit post. Mine wasn't even a shit post. It was. I don't even know what the fuck. People assume it was a shit post. It was a shit post, but it was a Buzz Lightyear thing.
You did the Buzz Lightyear one, and I'm gonna tell you, Skoy, yours was the meme that made me like, okay, so where did this Buzz Lightyear thing come from? Because
I have no idea.
I saw it everywhere. I did too.
I
looked it up. Because I saw your meme and I was like, where is this buzz from? This like realistic buzz. And then I saw the Pixar announcement that's like, here's the Buzz story. And I was like,
why? Like how lackluster
who asked for realistic buzz?
I love that. Are you kidding me? No, I'm all for this.
No. What's the story about? There's no story.
This is the thing. This is the thing, because this also opens up the possibility to have a Woody story too. You know how cool that would be?
No, we had that. That was Toy Story 2. Thank you very much.
That doesn't.
Toy Story 2
that's about the toy Woody. We need to know about the real character that Woody is based on.
I saw Woody's Roundup. I listened to Sarah McLachlan's like When Somebody Loved Me. I'm good. That story, I don't need it again.
When somebody
stop encouraging Disney to beat the Toy Story horse. Like, stop doing that.
They're doing it to all of them.
No, but
it's
like,
not just Toy
Story. We're gonna
have
a fifth one at some point, from what I've heard. I don't even know.
That is the fifth one. That is.
What? The Buzz Lightyear thing?
because we had Toy Story 4 already.
Yeah. No. I mean like Toy Story 5.
You mean like Toy Story 5?
Toy Story 5? From what I've heard,
I feel
I'm
like
like
they just
Toy
need
Story
to let
4.
Toy Story go.
I feel like it should have ended at 3.
They need to pull a Rose in Titanic and let go. Just let it go. Because like the thing for me,
it's funny how like hype people are getting about the new Buzz Lightyear movie when all the hype is just his
Everyone
suit.
hates it. What are you talking about?
It's just his suit. That's it. I'm just I don't know what to be excited for the movie.
I'll be honest. I don't hate it. I just
don't hate it either.
That
I love it.
I watched the trailer and all I could think of was it just doesn't feel necessary, and it feels like there is so much work that could have just been put towards doing like another unique Pixar movie.
Yeah.
But for some reason Pixar has just kind of fallen off and is like, we're gonna do sequels instead. Ever since, and apologize, like right out the gate, I apologize to all Brave stans, but that movie, not good. Sorry, I did not like Brave. Oh yeah, I didn't like Brave.
Didn't like Brave.
I love animated movies.
Like I thought it was a good movie. To be completely honest, I thought it was a good movie, but I don't remember what it's about.
Oh,
it's about your mom turning into a bear.
Oh, was it?
Like here.
It's Freaky Friday, but animated.
So it's Brother Bear?
Kind of, but not because she didn't switch places with her mom.
So
her
was it
mom
basically
turned
Brother
into a bear.
But they learned an important lesson with each other. It was a mother-daughter story.
So here's the thing. Here's the reason why I don't like Brave very much. And like, I thought the animation was beautiful. I thought the music was beautiful. The voice acting was great. My problem with it was that it was supposed to be this mother-daughter story. And like, they somehow work everyththing out without talking because her mom's a bear. And it's just like, I'm supposed to believe that like, oh my god, they finally understand one another as her mom's a bear for 90%. Like it had there was a great foundation. I felt like it just wasn't as great as it could be. And so I felt like Brave got a lot of praise the year it came out, but there were other animated movies that were so good. It came out in the same year as the first Wreck-It Ralph. It came out in the same year as Paranorman. Paranorman is one of my favorite animated movies of all time.
Great.
It is a fantastic film, and they were all nominated for the Academy Award, and Brave won, and I was stunned because all I could think of was Wreck-It Ralph will probably win. Like my brain was like Wreck-It Ralph will probably win because like it was really good.
That's where I was too.
It appeased a lot of people. Like it was great with people who didn't play video games, but if you played video games and you saw all of the references, you loved it. So I was like, Wreck-It Ralph was really good. I think it'll win. Paranorman is the one that I wanted to win because I thought it was genuinely the best one out of all of the movies nominated. Pirates Band of Misfits was also nominated, and it was really funny. It's by the Wallace and Gromit people. I love animated movies, by the way. Can you tell? I love them.
They're great.
I love them. But Brave won, and I remember sitting there. 2012 haunts me for the rest of my life, and I remember sitting there just like, oh my god. What? Because like, they didn't talk. They didn't talk. Her mom was a bear. 90%. Like, oh my god.
It's going back to like the whole
if you
Buzz
ignore your
Lightyear
issues,
thing.
everything works out.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
No.
It's just not. Like, I would have loved it if it was like her mom and her worked things out and like talked about it. Because I'm like, that's what reality is. You communicate. You don't turn into a bear.
Just basically saying that like you could work things through by closing a door between each other and trying to like talk things through.
Yeah, like
perfect. That's what every modern day parent wants to do with their children.
I loved but like for example, like I feel like animated movies in general by like film critics don't get a lot of recognition because a lot of people write them off as like kids movies. Like they're just like it's for kids.
Well, the fucking
But no, they're
just
not.
tell
They're
them.
families.
Tell them about what was it?
But some of them aren't.
What's that movie? Not a movie. It was a series, animated series. Came out, freaking bloody as gory as hell.
Well, but you also have movies like Loving Vincent. Loving Vincent was about Vincent van Gogh, and they had a bunch of artists who animated the entire movie by painting it in Vincent van Gogh's art style.
Oh.
And that movie is definitely not for children because it deals with a lot of like heavy mental health themes.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying
but,
animated movies in general. I'm saying like the Pixars and the Disneys and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that. Those are intended
are
to be
for family.
I don't call them kids movies. I call them family movies. Like people like us, we can enjoy them because we grew up on that stuff. But they're targeted towards families and family problems and family issues.
I'm waiting for a Pixar film that's rated R and to see like pretty
That's
much.
never gonna happen.
I know,
Never gonna happen.
but like it's gonna be like a gory film. I'm just waiting for like Buzz Lightyear's head to get cut off or something. I'm kidding.
You really didn't like that trailer, did
No,
you? Like,
it's fine. No. Going back to that though, like people are saying that this is like the movie that Andy's gonna be like. This is what brought him to buy the toy. Like that's what the perspective of this film is.
I don't need that origin story though. I don't care. Like.
This is the way that I look at it. Is it's not as like an origin story like that. Like think about it as like a completely separate entity. Like this isn't related to Toy Story. This isn't related to anything. It's just a movie about a character that they wanted to write, and I think it makes that a little bit more of an enjoyable experience because if you think about the audience that they're going to be,
know what it's going to be about.
If you think about the audience that it's going to be targeting, it's mostly people that are mostly children that haven't seen Toy Story. We here.
First of all,
we're hurting Elise. We're hurting.
That pains me. I don't want to feel old right now. Like I know that when I graduated high school, it was the year that Toy Story 3 came out, and I like bawled like a baby watching that movie because I had an existential crisis, and I was like, wait, Andy's going to college and I'm going to college. This is crazy. So like, I get what you're saying. But don't call me old.
I didn't.
I feel like you're calling me old because you're like, these kids haven't watched Toy Story. And I'm like, what do you mean?
That made me think about the two. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
It's like telling me that kids haven't watched Shrek. Like,
but they haven't. There are some people in the world that haven't seen.
Stop. I can't.
Like
this is information that I am not ready to process. I am not ready to process that people haven't seen Shrek yet because I'm.
WALL-E. Imagine people that haven't seen WALL-E. Right, what if people haven't seen WALL-E? Like
people are going to be like, "Oh, Buzz Lightyear. Is that the guy from Toy Story 3? Not from Toy Story.
No,
from Toy Story 3?
Do you know what destroyed me? What destroyed me was I went to Disney World and there was like this whole thing where it's like, make sure you check the toys, check the shoe of the toys to see what name's written on it, and it's not Andy's name anymore. It's Bonnie's name, and that gave me an existential crisis for the whole day. I was like, no, Andy's name isn't on the shoe anymore. It's Bonnie's
That's
name.
Cute
instead.
though. I like that.
No, I don't.
I don't. It gave me it gave me existential dread, and it made me feel old the whole time. Like I know I'm old, but like I don't need the movies.
I don't need a reminder.
I don't need the nostalgia to remind me like, hey, by the way,
Toy Story was like the only movies I watched as a kid. Like my parents were annoyed as me as a kid because I would like go up to the VHS tape, rewind, play it again, sit down and watch.
Mine was Nightmare Before Christmas.
I
used to watch Nightmare Before Christmas on repeat, and my mom thought there was a problem with me. She took me to a therapist. She's like, all he does is watch this nightmare movie.
I mean, but it's a good movie. Look, it is not your fault that Danny Elfman wrote straight bops for that movie. Because like the story of that movie is good, but that movie is carried 100% by Danny Elfman. Like it's Danny Elfman to a T. Like that man is talented beyond belief. Like that, but I was obsessed with that movie like from middle school to the present. Like I still love that movie. And I that was the first Disney soundtrack that I personally owned on CD because I loved it. But my movie growing up that I watched on repeat was Lady and the Tramp. I don't know why. That was the one that I liked. But I just, my mom would say that I would watch that movie all the time and like ask for it to be played. And I don't remember any of it at all, but apparently I used to like know all the words and I would talk all the movie. Yeah, I watched it way too much apparently. I don't know that now. I haven't seen Lady and the Tramp in so long that I don't remember the plot. So
maybe you'll rewatch it and you'll have like one of those like repressed memories, like just rushing back. It's just like, I remember everything.
Script. It's like when people like suddenly know the B movie script like by heart. I've never seen B movie, but that's like the biggest meme of all time.
Biggest meme. How long is the script?
Pasta.
It is like people just copy the B movie
script is a copy pasta.
It really is. It's so funny. Like the whole start where it's just like bees do this with like their wings or whatever. I don't even know the entire.
There was a lot of like I don't know, it was the voice actor that played as the main bee from the Bee Movie. Was it Barry? Barry B or something? I don't know what his name was.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never
Jerry
seen
Seinfeld.
I don't remember.
Barry Seinfeld did the voice. Though.
Yeah, no. He he was just like he apologized on one of the I don't know if it was recent or anything, but he apologized for like people assuming that there was he apologized for people thinking that there was sexual tension between a bee and a human being in that movie.
That's so sad that he
like,
had to apologize for the movie at all.
Like, I didn't even think about that at all. But then a lot of people are just like,
I will say, like, as much as I love animated movies and I could talk about them forever, I do love a lot of Pixar movies. I just wish they would kind of, because like movies like Up, for example, I loved. But if they ever made an Up 2, I would be so sad.
Did they
Like,
what if they called it Down?
They have not.
They called it Down.
Goodbye.
Because the you know, like the old man, like he's gonna probably pass.
What's the old man gonna do?
I'm kidding. But stop talking. That was gonna go really dark. I'm sorry.
I was like, wait, it's called Down and we're talking about the old man still?
I'm gonna stop talking. All right, go on.
Like,
I've been really dark this episode. I'm so sorry. Anyways, go on.
It's fine.
My edge is coming out from high school. I need to stop talking.
Well, I miss like some of the original ideas that they would have and they would create like
They created
don't get me
an animated
wrong.
short for Up.
They did. But I mean, like I love like Up. I loved the original Finding Nemo. I love the original Incredibles. I thought the Incredibles 2 was good, but it just doesn't measure up to the original. No. But like the creator of the Incredibles is phenomenal because he also did the Iron Giant. So I'm just like
Iron Giant.
Oof.
Yeah. He wrote that movie too. So it's like he's very talented, but I remember him saying that he felt pressured. I think that it was like everybody wanted The Incredibles 2, so he did write it, but it took him a really long time to get it to where he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people intended to make a sequel for their movies. So it's like when it's like, do a sequel, we want to see what happened, which like The Incredibles did kind of set it up where there could be a sequel. But I do think people need to get a bit more comfortable with like maybe we shouldn't push for sequels too much because sometimes people don't create their movies intending for those to happen.
That's what makes me worried about The Matrix. There's gonna be a Matrix 4 and I'm worried to be honest.
Is Keanu in it?
Yep.
And it'll be fine.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
The internet loves it.
It's Keanu.
No, but you're absolutely right. Like, because I mean, even it just like from a creative standpoint, just from like an author, a creator, someone who makes something, there is always a pressure to make a second version of it because of the success of the first. And I mean, you're absolutely right. Like there is some sort of pressure that's put on, especially Hollywood, right? Like there is a lot of pressure and tension put on creators, on authors, on directors to create a second version of this thing because the thing that makes the most money is a sequel. Sequels always make more money because people want it to be as good as the first. If the first one made a shit ton of money, the second one's going to make even more. And that's always the pressure. Everyone's always thinking sequel every time a movie is made. And so that's why most movies are like most of these things that are made to like be like it's 5-hour experience and then we chop it in half and we call that the first movie and then the second movie and it's golden because it was all original in the first, right? The only reason why The Hobbit is 3 movies is because because Lord of the Rings was 3 movies, and that could have very well been. I'm pretty sure you can search this on YouTube, but someone made a cut of all 3 Hobbit movies into one 2.5-hour long movie, and it's better than all 3 Hobbit movies put together.
It was just not needed. The 3
no,
movies
it wasn't.
Was not needed, but the original trilogy is fantastic. I'm just saying.
I need to watch
it.
Yeah,
that's an absolute masterpiece.
I'm so sorry. Jesus, I'm so sorry.
This is an every week thing for me. Okay, I have to do this every week where we have the realization again that Skoy has never seen Lord of the Rings.
Oh my!
That's next on my list.
I'm just shocked.
I'll be watching with my community.
I'm not mad. I'm shocked.
I know. I'm offended, honestly.
Did you not know I
Personally.
didn't watch Lord of the Rings? I thought you knew. I
No,
didn't
I've
watch
known
Lord
for
of
a
the Rings.
while. It's just
No, I
you
know,
still
that's
just
why I
haven't
couldn't
watched
believe-
it. Oh.
I feel like if you told me, I must have like blacked it out of my memory because
No, that was repressed.
It's kind
That
of like a
was
Men in
definitely
Black
a lady
Lady
situation.
transcript.
It's like a Men in
It's
Black
like, oh
situation.
my
It's like
God.
you forget this flash.
because like the thing is Lord of the Rings. There were certain movies that were so pivotal in like my childhood. So it's like Lord of the Rings is one of those because like I remember seeing it. I don't remember my theater experience too much. I just remember seeing it with my family. And then Pirates of the Caribbean and like Harry Potter, obviously, because that was
Pirates of the
big
Caribbean.
during my childhood. But like Orlando Bloom, another person that had like a chokehold, like the Raymond like chokehold that.
But instead on your life and your
like
pop culture
not just
understanding.
mine, like everyone's pop culture life. Like that man had a chokehold on the whole world. Like
Yeah.
need to
Will
watch Harry
Turner.
Potter.
Did you see Pirates of the Caribbean?
I've seen first.
Okay, this is
Three?
fine.
I've seen the
That's
first
fine.
one and
You've
second
seen all
one.
the ones that matter.
You've seen all of the ones.
You're good.
What about
You're
Harry
good.
Potter though? Is Harry Potter?
So here's the thing about Harry Potter is like it is very hard to enjoy that series now knowing the awfulness that J.K. Rowling perpetuates. So like for me, it's very difficult. I grew up with it. It was my childhood. As somebody who was like bullied in elementary school and middle school, where I would read a lot because I just didn't have really anything else to do. Harry Potter was a big thing for me. So like I read the books a lot. I remember it was a big thing for my family to go to like the midnight releases, etc. So it has a lot of nostalgia for me, but it's very hard to like tell people like go watch it, go read it, because I think that J.K. Rowling is just not a good person. So
Because she isn't.
yeah, she's not, and it's just kind of sad. It's very sad to see that someone who created this like world that you love so bad.
Literally a world designed on being like inclusive and understanding and creating a representation of underrepresented people, and then to come out being saying that you do not respect underrepresented people at all. And that they aren't human beings. Oh my god.
She's like on record saying that, and she argues it like to this day, which is why it's like you can like I would say you could watch the movies if you want, but I am one of the people who believes that the books are better for certain films. Like I think the first two movies are great. Even the third one's good. But I think once you get to the fourth movie is when things start to get a little weird because there's a lot of things that are not in the books that are in the movies. There's a lot of things that are in the books that I thought were better that are not in the movies at all. Like I personally think the fourth movie is compared to its book, it's just not as great. And that's that one is the first one where you see international schools. So like you see wizards from other places, and they didn't have enough time to like focus on any of that aspect. They didn't have enough time to focus on some of the interesting characters that are only in that book.
Is it because of corporations pushing out movies to be released? Is that why?
Correct.
I think so, yes, but I also feel like they don't with Harry Potter, I feel like they also did not want to split like anything until the last one, because obviously they wanted to milk that one as much as possible, but they didn't want to split any of the middle movies into two, because I feel like it just would have been a little bit awkward to be like, okay, the fourth movie we're going to split into two. The fifth one, which I think is actually like the longest book, they didn't split into two. So it's like it's hard. Like I think they had to put a lot of material into certain things, but where it gets tricky is it's like they added material instead of fitting some of the material that was already there. So that's where it gets weird in like the last few. Is like they just added random stuff. But I also, as I've grown up and I've started like looking at that series from an analytical point of view, I feel like a lot of the writing is not as great as viewing it as an adult. When I was a kid,
it's meant for a young audience. Yeah. It's meant for like young readers.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of fascinating though, because it's weird. Her books have like this theme of being inclusive of so many different people, but then when you actually like analyze the books and the school separated kids based off of certain personality traits. And then there was always one house that was viewed as evil. And then there were other houses that were all viewed as good. So even though there was this emphasis on inclusivity, she purposely put in her books this black and white, like these people are all bad, but these people are all good. And at the so it's like, I don't know. It's like, there's so many loose holes in that series that I'm like, from a pop culture standpoint, if you want to understand it, by all means, like try it. But I feel like
go and
the author
deconstruct it.
Yeah,
it's more effort than J.K.
will.
Rowling put into like writing it though. Like, because I like there is so much. I read the first 3 books and that was it, and I stopped there. We used to buy every single book. And I stopped at the 3rd one because I noticed that trend of we're going to say one thing but do another, and we're going to have a lot of just these empty holes and this nonsense that's just written in here. J.K. Rowling is a great writer. J.K. Rowling is not a good storyteller. That was always like my understanding of it, is because there were a lot of dead ends. There was a lot of side rails. There were a lot of sidebars. There was no, the meat and potatoes to it was great. Like, but only the meat and potatoes, and every other side and appetizer was just meaningless. You know, you have a 400-page book that you're going to go and you're going to read, and the only thing you're going to get out of it is that Harry's the chosen one every single time.
Pretty much.
Harry's Jesus, y'all.
And also that a lot of characters suck in reality.
And a lot of characters suck. Yeah.
That's pretty much like I feel like when you read it as an adult, you realize like, oh my God, this person's really shitty and manipulative. And like, this is a terrible,
like the first Spider-Man movie.
You don't realize it as a kid, kind of, but you just don't realize it as a kid because like you're not attuned to those things. You just kind of enjoy it at face value. But then when you're actually like reading it, and also I think what's important to keep in mind is that every kid who grew up with it was reading it for like book 1, book 2, the books were being released. So it's not like you read it all in one go, but if you read it like all in one go, you kind of realize like, oh my God, like some of these characters suck. So like, it's just an interesting thing. Also like, so I would say like you could watch the movies. I just feel like the only reason to watch the movies is to celebrate the actors who are in it, who did a great job with the material they were given. Like Alan Rickman, for example, like extremely talented. Richard Harris, who's only Dumbledore in the first 2 movies, but did a phenomenal job. Like you have so many people. Daniel Radcliffe did a great job. All of them, honestly, did like a really good job with the roles that they were given.
Seem like great, fantastic actors. And then like the 3 main kids for those movies like seem to be in like recent shows and movies that are coming out today. And that's incredible to see. Yeah.
I will say, I do think one of the mistakes they made was casting. It's not that they were bad at the role, because Gary Oldman was fantastic, but I feel like they made a grave error with Harry's parents, especially in the last movie, etc. Like when they're like showing, what's the word I'm looking for? Flashbacks. When Harry's parents died, they were supposed to be like almost his age in the final book. And they had them and they looked like they were in like their 40s. And it was weird because the whole point of it is that you're supposed to see them and see how young they were when they passed away. And like you don't get the same feeling. Yeah, it's supposed to be really sad because they died when they were like, what, like 21, 22?
Yeah, they were
or something like that. Like they were really young and they died. And so it's kind of just like, you don't get the same feeling of like the gravity of that situation and how sad it was.
Yeah.
Because they show these 40-year-old
couple. These 40-year-old couple.
Like, oh, those are my parents.
Also, like, I will always say the movies were a bit disorienting in the sense of like, I didn't care that the eye color didn't match to Harry in the book. What I thought was so weird was that the entire time in the books and in the movies, it's always like, you have the same eyes as your mom. And then the mom in the flashback has different colored eyes. And I'm like, guys, we've been running this.
They could have put contacts.
Very
like, do you see how
casting.
easy it is for like special effects to make your eyes change color? You can do that with your phone now. What the fuck?
They animated in, they CG'd in all the Dementors and shit. They couldn't change eye color in post.
It made me laugh so hard. Because I was like, at least if you're not gonna like do it, take all those lines out.
I know,
Wait,
right?
did they say it in the movie too?
Yes.
Yes, they do several times.
It was heavy emphasis in like the first 2 movies that like Harry looks like his parents, and like they were like really pushing that like Harry had this legacy in the first two like books, the first two movies, and then it's like it's never addressed later until you see like in the flashbacks you start seeing his parents again.
It's so
and you're
weird.
Like, oh,
it's just
missed that note.
It's very disorienting because it's like with Daniel Radcliffe, it was understandable because I think he actually had an adverse reaction to contacts when they tried to have him do it when he was a kid in the first movie. So like it made sense, and I feel like I understood that completely. It was just weird that like they couldn't edit it because I've been told actually from people like people who do like photo editing and stuff. Like I don't know if you guys know Gecko or Tom or whatever, but he told me like in photos it's actually easier when editing photos of cosplayers if they're not wearing contacts, because the colored contacts sometimes, if your pupil isn't dilated enough to fill that like in the colored contact before it like gets to the colored portion, you can see your actual eye color through the contact, and they have to go in and edit it and match it to the contact color versus like actually just like changing your whole eye color to the correct color. It's way easier to change your eye color to the correct color than to like match a contact. I thought that was pretty fascinating. Like they probably could have done it, they just
didn't feel like
movies are a little different as far as like that editing is concerned, but yeah, I mean when you have a budget like Harry Potter
like
does,
they
you
did,
can do it.
and this was the 7th movie, so it's like they had already made so much money. There was like absolutely no need to not do it. But
yeah, I mean, leading on from that though, they're like, I feel like let me process things. All right, here we go.
Process. We've talked about a lot of things. We've just gone like through so many topics.
We have like with video games being like forced released by corporations and everything. Do you like? And it seems like right now, like it seems that they're starting to understand, like, oh, we actually need to take our time to release things, otherwise things are gonna just drop. Do you feel like that'll eventually happen with movies, or is movies just going to continuously be on this endless loop until something is just like, hey, you need to fucking change this?
I think movies are different, personally.
I think movies are a bit different. I also think the thing that movies are falling into now is not so much do we need to rush to put this out? It's actually more so, do we need to put this on a streaming site now, or do we wait to put it in theaters? Because how much money do we need to make to offset the cost of the movie? Like I noticed a lot of things in the pandemic got delayed because they really wanted to do a theatrical release. So they were like delaying things because one, they didn't want the movie to come out at a time where like theaters weren't really open and people weren't going because they depend so much on box office monies. So it's like money's whatever. You get what I mean. I'm not a professional film critic person, but like they actually do depend on like how much you make at the box office, like how much you earn there. So a lot of it I think it's interesting because like I think with games you see so many people who are involved in the game or like developing the game seem to be super upset. Like I remember like when I saw, was it yesterday or the day before, the Endwalker got delayed, and seeing like everything with Yoshi P where he just looked so, sad to delay it. And it's like, I get it, because as much as I want to think that like we live in a world where people are understanding that like I want the best version of this game to come out, and I know that they're working really hard, especially the people at Final Fantasy 14. But you know that there are those people, like there's not that always that many, but they can be loud. And so I feel like there's always those people who are going to like attack you for taking your time or having to delay something. And it just sucks that those people can be so loud. I think we've seen it in several communities. Like I remember Cyberpunk being delayed a lot. I mean, there are some people who are very understanding, and it's just sad because I do feel like the vocal majority is usually the people who are not satisfied, you know, because usually if I'm fine with the delay, I don't reply to anything. I don't say anything. I'm just like,
exactly. Okay. It's a customer service thing.
Yeah, it's like the people who reply are usually the people who are upset, or the people who are vocal are the people who are upset, which is sad.
There's been a lot of, oh, sorry, go on.
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it was really, for me, it was fine, because like I still have a shit ton of story. I'm only like in post Heavensward, that's it right now. But like, it was, I think he was just really stressed about, because there are a lot of people that took time off to be able to play the game and really dive deep into the story, because otherwise they wouldn't really have time. I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking that's probably what he's going on in his head, and probably like the whole thing with having a schedule that you want to set to and then not being able to release it at that time.
Mhm.
And so
Yoshi P is like
Yeah.
is an enigma among developers though, like among like individual people that run developing, like that are in charge. Yoshi P is an enigma. He is a one of a kind. This man loves this game so much. At the release of every single announcement for a expansion, he is cosplaying one of the new classes. Like this man is so invested in this series. It is beyond what I have seen from literally any other developer ever. He has a special connection to this product. And so seeing him get that emotional, like I don't want to say that it's like expected, but it makes perfect sense because it's like this is something that he treats as like this is his life works. Like this is something that he devotes every waking moment to, right? And to be like, I feel like I failed here, you know. I totally get it.
yeah.
I feel for the man. But that's like where it's important because the vocal minority will always, you know, like a person that's had a bad experience will tell more people than someone who's had a good experience. So it's important for people who do have that good experience, who do have that positive outlook on this, to be vocal about that, because it shuts up the vocal minority that is upset about this when the unvocal majority is actually supporting of what this is. Like people will always share a bad experience first, but no one feels obligated to share a good opinion or a good experience. This is my challenge to you.
I have seen mostly on Twitter because I'm not really on other social media. Like I have an Instagram and I do watch TikTok funny videos. I've been meaning to post cosplay stuff on there at some point, but like I'm just not. It takes time and it takes effort. But like from what I've seen though, I think it is so interesting to see how like the Final Fantasy XIV community like came together after the delay was announced, and everyone posted super positive things. Everything that I saw was super positive.
It was
like even the
positive.
people whose time off was ruined, there were people who were like, "Yeah, my time off's ruined, and that sucks. I'm disappointed." But like, I'll try to work it out. And everyone was so sweet towards Yoshi P that like part of me is like, that's how it should be. Like in an ideal world, that's how we should all react for any delays. But I do think it's like there are so many people who like are totally. When Elden Ring got delayed, for example, I've been waiting for that game for years. I love George R. R. Martin. I love his writing. I think he is great at world building. I think he is great at creating characters who are like morally gray. Like there isn't like clear evil, clear bad. Like I think fantastic. The fact that he is involved with a game by From Software has had me hyped forever. I saw the delay announcement and I was like, it's fine. That gives me more time to play Monster Hunter Rise, if anything. Like I'll just, but like I didn't even think to say anything because to me it's like, I've been waiting for this game so long already. What's one more month? Like what's
exactly?
I am gonna love it no matter what, most likely, because I love who's involved. And I liked the gameplay trailer that I saw. Hopefully I love it. If I don't, whatever. But like I'm patient for it. I was patient enough for SMT5. If I can wait for SMT5, I can wait for anything. If I could wait for Breath of the Wild, I can wait for anything. Breath of the Wild was first shown in like what, 2011, 2000 something? Like they showed like the little teaser
and then
trailer.
Breath of the Wild 2 was shown 3 years ago.
Stop.
Was teased 3 years ago.
Was it 3 years ago?
Yes.
Yes.
The first teaser was 3 years ago. But here's the thing: as a Zelda fan, die hard. It's my favorite franchise in the whole world. I if I could wait for the first Breath of the Wild, I can wait for Breath of the Wild too. And
exactly.
Like it took so long because when they first teased quote unquote Breath of the Wild, it wasn't actually like announced as Breath of the Wild. It was the teaser of like, this is what Zelda would be on the Wii U. Isn't it cool? And all of us were like, oh my God, new Zelda on the Wii U. And then it wasn't until like 2017 that they're like, okay, by the way, it's finally coming, but we also are announcing the Switch. So it is going to be on the Wii U, but also the Switch. And I was like, well, pre-orders a Switch, pre-orders Breath of the Wild. That was like, asked for the day off. Immediate. I was like totally prepared. March 3rd, 2017, I was ready to go. I was just like in it to win it. I liked that game. It is not my favorite Zelda by any means. I think it has a lot of room for improvement. Well, so here's the thing. It is and it isn't. Like it pulls a lot from the original Legend of Zelda, which I understand. But at the same time, I feel like they were so focused on not wanting to give you a definitive way of going anywhere. Like they didn't want to direct you in any certain way, that it lost a lot of elements from the previous Zelda games that us as Zelda fans have all grown to know as, this is the Zelda series. This is what I expect from the Zelda series. So whenever somebody who has never played Zelda asks, like, which one should I start with? Should I start with Breath of the Wild? I always say no. I don't think Breath of the Wild should be anyone's favorite.
First.
That's mean. It can be your favorite. Sorry. It should not be.
Don't you dare like.
It can be your favorite. It can be your favorite. I'm sorry. It can be your favorite. Oh my God! Don't come at me. There are about to be like so many people who are like, it's my favorite because. Anyways, it can be your favorite. It's just I don't think it should be your first because it's so different from all of the previous ones. Maybe with the exception of the original Zelda, but like I still feel like the original Zelda feels super different. Also, because it's really old. But like, it's your favorite. It can be your favorite.
It's his first.
I don't agree. Oh, it's your first. Okay, it's your first. So like, if it's your first, just know. I don't agree. I don't think like because here's the.
Get this man ALPTP.
It can be your favorite. I don't agree.
It's not my favorite, but I like it. It's not.
It's your first. It's your first, so you don't know if it's your favorite.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't. Yeah, you can't have a favorite if it's your only one. Obviously.
Only one. You have to play the other ones first.
It's my favorite first.
There you go. That's sweet. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. But like, I just think that if it is your first, because it was a lot of people's first. So what I tell people is, if it was your first, you should go into the older games expecting a slightly different experience. And by slightly, I mean it's very different. So like,
totally different
it's not open world anymore. If you go, so when I know Skoy, you're planning on playing Ocarina of Time, which eventually. Ocarina of Time is regarded as like the most. I think it's the most influential in the series as a whole, because so many games were released that are directly tied to it, and before that game, there weren't like any other Zelda games that had that. So Ocarina of Time is super influential in the series. But it's not going to be open world, so the world might feel smaller to you, but also like the temples are way more dynamic. So the music is also, in my opinion, way more impactful. It's not to say that Breath of the Wild's music wasn't, it's just that it was very atmospheric. So it's nice if I'm like studying or doing something, like I listen to things like the Animal Crossing soundtrack or Breath of the Wild soundtrack, because it just kind of fades into the back and it's a nice ambiance music. It fits the theme for Breath of the Wild. But like so many of the most memorable themes from Zelda are from the other games. And the most memorable themes to me in Breath of the Wild were actually the ones that pulled music from the other games. Yeah. So like Zora, the Zora area in Breath of the Wild, it's actually from Zora's Domain in Ocarina of Time. That's where that song is pulled from. They also like remixed Dragon Roost Island. That was pulled and put into. So that's why it's like, for me, it's like there's a lot of songs that like I thought were super memorable, but they were also pulled from other games. Like I cried at the starting tutorial of Breath of the Wild because they played Farewell Hyrule King, which to me is one of the most emotional songs from the Zelda series, and they played it right at the start. So I was like sobbing. And that's what like, so some of the songs that were impactful to me in the series, they were in that game, and it was really nice to see them. But it always, like, it was a critical thing for me in that game where I'm like, it did pull at my nostalgia heartstrings a lot. Yeah. But I also felt like the memorable experiences were not enough to make Breath of the Wild, like, perfect. It can be, though. And I think Breath of the Wild 2 will do it.
Breath of the Wild 2 definitely
Breath of the Wild 2 is going to... It already looks really good.
It looks gorgeous.
I like the dynamic of this. It looks like it's got some like elements of Skyward Sword-esque stuff to it too, which is nice. So I'm very excited to experience Breath of the Wild too. But that would be my only advice for you is like if you go back and play the older ones, just know that like they're more.
It's a different game.
It's a different game.
It's different.
I've watched
you
the
have
playthrough.
Like the same characters, but
yeah, I've watched the playthrough of Ocarina of Time. I thought it was great. I definitely want to play through it because I don't really remember much from it. I want to play through it. I want to play through all of them, to be honest. But going back to
promise
Breath of the Wild.
A big promise.
Well, I will be playing through it. It's on my list of backlog. All the games.
He's got a big list of all the games that he needs to play.
It'll be worth it though. I mean, the hardest ones to get through for you will probably be like the older ones if you play them. Like Zelda 2 is probably the
Don't play
hardest one
Zelda
for
2.
people to push through.
Just don't do it.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to give it a go because there were a lot of things. Like, okay, so one of my friends actually made a really good comparison to the Castlevania series, which I've never played. But you've played Castlevania, right, Bagel?
I haven't. No.
You haven't? Okay, never mind. Then I can't make this
involved in
comparison.
like the speed. I'm big involved in the speedrunning community, so I've watched all of these games like hundreds of times.
Yeah, because like
So that's
somebody
the
made
majority of my experience with retro.
Yeah, because like somebody made a comparison of Zelda 2 to one of the Castlevania games. I forget which one it is. I think it's like Somebody's Quest. Castlevania fans don't come for me. I've never played. Anyways, watch the anime though. Anyway, the point is,
I know which one you're talking about.
She's just causing wars off of every franchise she's grabbing right now. Castlevania, Final Fantasy, Zelda.
It's on my list. Castlevania is on my list, but I promised I'd do Metroid first. So once I finish Hollow Knight, it's Metroid.
Simon's Quest,
anyway.
Castlevania 2. I knew which one you were talking about. Yeah, that one's awful.
A lot, and like the thing is Zelda 2 is not. It's not great, right? But there were a lot of things in Zelda 2 that are like fun-y. Like the Dark Link battle in that game is one of the most it's traumatizing. But like when you beat the game, you do get this feeling of satisfaction that you can be like, yes, I beat Zelda 2, and then you can just throw it away. You can just throw it away. You don't have to touch it ever again.
You never have to do it ever again.
It was for me, it was worth it to play it and finish it and be like, I did this thing. I understand. I mean, Temple Theme from Super Smash Brothers is from Zelda 2. So it's like there are things that
There's
are
one redeeming quality.
There it is. It's right there. Temple Theme. It's a great song.
The story for Breath of the Wild felt really bland. Like it was.
Well, there was none.
That's what I'm saying. It felt really bland.
It's not a story game.
Well, I mean, it wasn't.
And I want to make that point. It's not like because Breath of the Wild wasn't a story game. I always say Breath of the Wild was a Skyrim game. Like it's an open world.
But there was so much empty story in it. Like there was so much work like behind everything, but that wasn't told at all.
That's just not what the game was about.
But here's the problem. Here's where I disagree. I do not think that the game was not intended to be a story game. I think they wanted to have a story. But they've never done the only time that they've had an open world-ish Zelda game was the original one, right? And with that one, again, limited by hardware, so you couldn't do like what they did with Breath of the Wild. Yeah. I think the issue that Nintendo encountered, because like here's where my counterpoint is Witcher 3 is technically open world and you can do a bunch of stuff, but there is a huge narrative element in that game that they like layered it flawlessly, where it's like you can do the story quest, but you can also do side quests, and you don't have to continue the story right away. Go explore, like go to all the markings on the map. Breath of the Wild had a key part of the game where you were supposed to like go find the memories to unlock parts of the story, and then they added DLC where they were like, here, you can find out more about the champions. Not enough though. I personally felt like it was not enough, but
it was not.
For me, it's like there was a story. You were clearly supposed to uncover like what happened in the past and like what failed and all that stuff, and you were supposed to have this understanding of story elements, but it was just like there wasn't a lot there. Because I think they just didn't know how to put the story into the open world aspect. Because again, it's like a newer experience for them. All of the Zelda games in the past, like besides the OG, didn't really have that. So it's like, I think they've just not had that formula ever with Zelda before, that it was a big project and they had some shortcomings and they could do better. But I don't think that Zelda in the future is going to be meant to not have a story, because you look at things like Skyward Sword, like why would they make Skyward Sword and then be like, oh, let's release Breath of the Wild, but like not have a story? I think with Breath of the Wild, they're trying to figure out how to bring the timeline back together at the bottom. Because like right now, so
they just start a new one every single game.
No, they don't, though. There is an official timeline. And some of the games in the official timeline do make sense. Not all of them. And what I mean by that is like Four Swords Adventures is just randomly thrown in. And I'm convinced, if anyone at Nintendo can confirm, I am convinced that they like, for Four Swords Adventures and for some games where there's just like there's no clear indicator of where they would be, they had a dartboard and they were like, let's just, wherever it lands, that's where the game goes. And they just threw it. Because
I just want someone to admit that at a company. It's just like, so where's this part of the story? It's just
Absolutely,
like,
that's exactly what we did.
there.
Because like for me, some games make total sense. Like Skyward Sword is very obviously the first. It's right at the top because they wrote it intending it for be that to be that way. So you know that that's where it is. Ocarina of Time is obviously in the middle because that's where the timeline comes from. Is actually Ocarina of Time because you go back in time and then forward in time or whatever. And it's like, because there's these two potential endings of like where you stay as an adult as Link or where you go back in time and are a kid, that causes a split in the timeline. So for a long time before Nintendo confirmed the official timeline with Hyrule Historia, people had theories that there were two timelines, the adult Link timeline and the kid Link timeline. And obviously there were games underneath that. And you could tell that Wind Waker was tied to it, because Wind Waker specifically has the legend at the start that sounds very much like Ocarina of Time. And then you also have Majora's Mask, which was released as a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask is also tied to Twilight Princess. So it's like, there are certain games that are like very much connected. So it's like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask is obviously direct sequel. Best game, by the way. I know someone will agree with me, Faye. I know it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, it is the best one. I'm sorry. It just is. Look at this. Anyway.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's the best one. I'm sorry. She will though. She's got my back.
We'll have to get her on. That'd be amazing.
But yeah. So some are connected, some aren't. The one that was weird was in the official timeline. They added like a if Link fails, which nobody was expecting, and that's where A Link to the Past is. But it actually does kind of work when you think of the lore with A Link to the Past, and I could explain it forever, but I won't, because I will talk for another 2 hours about The Legend of Zelda, and that's just not, it'll
be another podcast.
I'll be another podcast for sure. I would love that.
I mean, I do love that series, and I think it is very interesting. The lore of the series is... There's not that much, to be fair. A lot of it is just kind of like what's in each individual game. But yeah, very cool. Like, it is a very cool series, and I do hope you like it when you play more of it, because Breath of the Wild is a great game.
Yeah.
So
I'll definitely look into it.
Breath of the Wild is a great game.
It is. It may not be my favorite.
No, I hope they do. I really hope they do get away from the non-linear progression, though. Like, that's where Breath of the Wild, like, you're exactly right. Like, Breath of the Wild doesn't feel like a story game because it has no linear progression. You can just go and do anything whenever you want to, and then you have to take the tidbits of story and of narrative that they give you in each of those areas and then stitch them all together in the way that you get them. So everyone's experience of the game is kind of different, which is why I think they pulled out a lot of story for that game, because if your story elements are entirely held in flashbacks, you're going to get those at different times. You're not going to know what happened first, what happened second. Give us a linear game that has like a better like progressive understanding, that has something about the story that's actually happening, because the entire story of Breath of the Wild was about what happened before.
So here's the thing that's interesting, though. Here's the thing that's interesting, right? So I agree with you to an extent, and the only reason why I feel like it is very possible, like I get what you're saying, where it's like it's hard to have a story element because what if people need to discover other things first? So without spoiling anything, I found when playing AI the Somnium Files, because if you've never played a Zero Escape game, the way that it works is and they've changed the Zero Escape games a little bit, because you used to have to do multiple playthroughs to get different endings or whatever. Now in the Zero Escape games and in AI the Somnium Files, there's a flowchart where, like, once you finish something, you can go back to a period time on the flowchart and then get the other endings that way, so you're not replaying the whole game. It's very nice. But what's interesting is that depending on decisions you make throughout the game, you go down different pathways. But like, for example, my playthrough of the Somnium Files, I did a very weird first few routes where I ended up getting locked routes that I couldn't continue because I hadn't discovered enough in the story. And then it pushed me back to go do like other things. But I didn't know what the main route was. I just knew I had to go back and make other decisions. And I still ended up getting more locked routes before I actually ever finished the one that they intended me to do. And like, even though, and I will say this, it can be a bit confusing, but it was actually more so encouraging for me to like be like, okay, what am I missing? Like,
Yeah, to like
what,
go back
what
and
else?
like discover and
So
like reapproach an area that you've already been in. It makes sense.
And I think they have a potential to do things like that if they decide to add bigger story elements. And I think that's where I feel like people can take inspiration from games like that, where it's like, oh, okay, so this like method of storytelling works. I just have to execute it well, that it's not too confusing and that people want to go back to. You have to make those areas interesting enough, I feel like, that people have to want to go back. Because I will say there were games that had me revisit areas that I just did not like. Normally, I don't like revisiting areas, for example. Like, I didn't like Banjo-Tooie as much as Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh my
goodness. I liked playing Kazooie because like, you go to the area, you do everything in there, and then you leave. I did not like Banjo-Tooie because you had to go back to those areas, and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into making that type of experience fun. So it is difficult, but not impossible. And I feel like if Nintendo can like find a way to balance like things like that, it'll be great. I don't know if they'll be able to in time, but
would you want branching paths for Breath of the Wild 2, or would you just want like more like story elements in the areas that you go to?
I'll be right back 1 second. You guys can continue.
No worries.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep going.
We're really need to go.
No worries.
I'll be right back.
I also have to head out soon anyway, but what I would actually like, and I think would be a great thing for them to consider, and that they never done in Zelda before, is potentially doing different endings. I think honestly, having different endings, even if you don't have that many, like you don't need to go full Yoko Taro. Love Yoko Taro, but you don't have to have like 5 different endings or like even more than that. Like you don't need that many. You could have maybe just like 3 main endings, but I think it gives you the freedom of not relying on one main story arc as much, you know, and it would allow them a bit more freedom with the open world aspect. I know that they're not usually big on that though. I hope that they kind of open up to the idea of that if they're going to continue doing the open world, because I do think it allows them to accomplish everything that they want to do. Yeah. Also, I think that there's a way that they could do that without necessarily creating the same split that Ocarina of Time did. So yeah, I feel like that would be what I would like to see. It would just be cool. It would be something different.
Be able to have, it'd be cool to like be able to have like those endings, like where the hero loses and Ganon, you know, reigns and like reigns supreme over that, and like you could start seeing diverging timelines even in subsequent games or in DLCs and stuff like that. Like if you finish the game and Ganon won, like this is the story that you get in the DLC now. I
think it would be cool. I also kind of miss the handheld games. I kind of hope that they bring back some handheld Zeldas. I loved Oracle of Ages. I loved Oracle of Seasons.
Really?
Yeah, and I liked Link's Awakening a lot.
Seasons.
OG. That one's my favorite out of the 2.
Really?
Which is not really a common opinion.
That was the first Zelda game that I actually like played, and then I tried Ocarina of Time, but on the 3DS because that's what I had to play it on. I was like, oh, this isn't the best experience.
Actually, the surprising thing is, though, and this is just from my personal experience, is Ocarina of Time 3DS. Even though it's on the 3DS, which I think it's one big huge con, is that it's on the 3DS and you have to play on like a tiny screen. I think the thing for me about Ocarina of Time on that console is that on Nintendo 64, on the GameCube versions and on the other versions, you were constantly having to press the start menu in the Ocarina of Time to put on the iron boots and take them off and put them on and take them off. And it was a lot of pausing and doing all this stuff. It was very tedious. And what I liked about the 3DS version is they added that extra equipment part. It was like that red like touch screen part where like you could put the boots and all you'd have to do is touch them. And that was a very great quality of life. It was a game changer. Like playing through that game, it just made the experience so much better. And so it's like there are certain things with like that version that I like, but I am an adamant Majora's Mask 3DS version is garbage and no one should ever play it.
I thought we were praising it for a second.
Here's the thing.
That's the only thing to praise about it.
The original Majora's Mask is my favorite game in the entire like world. It's my top favorite game.
They changed a lot, especially with dungeons and everything.
They changed how boss fights work. They changed where certain masks were located, which if it was a Master Quest playthrough, like if they did something like that, I would understand. My issue with it was that like it seemed like they changed it not because they wanted to make it harder, but because there were a lot of people who had played the game before who knew that this thing was there, and it made like no one who was new to it would have known that the mask was there. So for me, it was just very weird to like change that particular one. It was the stone mask. That's my favorite mask in the game, and they just changed it so that you couldn't have it to go through this one part. You got it in the middle of that one part, but there was no need to change it because, like, unless you knew to go to, it was the last area that you normally go to. You would have to know to go to the last area first before the third area to get it, and it was just weird. Like, no one who's new will know that.
So what you're saying is I should play the 3DS version first.
Don't do it. It's so sad because they also changed the Zora swimming. The Zora swimming was my favorite thing to do as a kid because one of the things that I love about Majora's Mask is that you transform into the different like races in the game. So you can transform into a Zora, you transform into a Goron, and you transform into a Deku, which is really cool because normally you don't get to experience what it's like to be in those forms. So I thought that was a really neat addition to that game in specific. Plus your instrument changes. So like the Zora has like the guitar, the Goron has the drums, and the little Deku scrub has like the trumpet or something. Something else. I don't even know what it is. It's like a very weird, like just specific for that race. So I don't know what it is. Sorry, I don't know my brass instruments. My bad. String instruments for life. But anyways, the point is that like I really liked as a kid, since I wasn't great always at figuring out where to go, especially in Majora's Mask because it could be a bit confusing with all the side quests. There were some times where after school I would just load up the game and I would get into Zora form and just swim around the Great Bay because I thought it was just really relaxing and fun to do. And they changed it in the 3DS version so that now it uses your magic bar. And it didn't used to do that. I thought it was just a very odd change because it was very unnecessary. And it was so weird. It was just not a necessary change. There were things like that, like little things like that. But the boss fights were the ones where I didn't really understand the point. The boss fights are not too hard to figure out. There's like a few. So
but now I can play it. I was gonna grab my Switch, but it's near my bed because I was playing Animal Crossing this morning. But
as you should.
Yeah, no, I played it so I could finally do the buy turnips because everyone's like hype about the turnips. But anyways.
Oh yeah, the stock market.
Yeah, the stock market stuff.
Stock market.
Daisy May.
My girl.
But yeah, no, now we can play it on the Switch.
Well, you can't play Majora's Mask yet, I don't think.
No.
Unless it's available. Is it available yet?
I don't know.
Because I remember when they announced it, they announced the initial lineup. They showed Majora's Mask in the Direct, but they said the initial lineup was like a limited amount of them, and then they're going to add the rest later. And I think it's Ocarina of Time first.
Yeah.
And they plan on adding Majora's Mask later, so I don't know if it's there yet.
That is correct. Ocarina of Time first. And then more to come.
But you should technically play Ocarina of Time first anyway.
I'd love to, yeah. Now it's on the Switch, I have no reason not to play it.
But...
Yeah. Now there's no way to really capture the
I will have a ton of tidbits to give. It's the first game that Tingle was ever in. Fun fact.
Nice.
Our boy Tingle. I just want to let you know, I looked up the stone mask, and you did actually pick the most scuffed mask to be your favorite.
It's the
stone mask looks so scuffed.
Dude, do you know how useful that mask is, though? Like, it makes you invisible. It's like sickest thing ever. It makes you plain as stone, so nobody notices that you're dead. It's so good.
Yeah,
that doesn't show how much of an introvert I am. Like, hi, I'm not an introvert at all, but my favorite mask is the one that my favorite.
Okay.
It's so scuffed. I love it.
Look, I like masks that give me utility. So my favorite masks are like the bunny hood and the stone mask. The bunny hood is like first mask I get if I can.
So, nightmares.
I didn't know that the bunny hood was a Majora's Mask thing. I thought it was just like an item they put into Smash. I didn't realize it came from Majora's Mask.
It comes from well, it's in Ocarina of Time too. It just doesn't really do what it does in Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask, it like doubles your speed, so it's like, why would I not want this
Always
thing?
Use this.
Also, can we just agree that a lot of the art for Majora's Mask is just fantastic?
Yes.
Like,
is that a question? Like, yeah, I can.
That's a statement.
But I do agree. It just is. It was one of the darker Zelda games, though, despite being super colorful and having like very vibrant characters. That's one of the things I love about that game is like the world is really small when you play it, but like it doesn't feel small because you feel connected to almost every single person in that game. So I thought that was really cool. They make you like try to help out every single person. So like unlike like you know, like in Breath of the Wild, there were a few like main characters that you knew, right? And that you helped. In Majora's Mask, you essentially try to help everyone. So you inevitably start learning like either people's titles if they don't have a name, or you start learning everybody's name. And I feel like every single character in Majora's Mask sticks out to me, and I remember them all. And I love them all. So it's like, it's interesting because like in Breath of the Wild, I like some characters, but I've noticed it's like the main people that they've shown me over and over.
Yeah.
Whereas like Majora's Mask, I love everyone. Like it's not just the main people like Macau or Darmani or like any of those people. I also like, or not even just like Anju and Kafe, who are like the main people that you see, or like Skull Kid, who's like the main person you see. I also love like very obscure like bandmates in the Zora village, Jappas, and like all of those people. Like there's just the Deku Butler is one of my favorite characters from that game. So like there's just so many like characters that you'll like meet and help, and it's cool. I like it a lot.
It's awesome. Huh. Well,
when you try it, you'll have to let me know how you feel. I hope I didn't like oversell it too much. That's like my biggest fear. Is that like I set people's expectations too high, and then they go on and they're like, "Man, at least made this game sound like phenomenal."
Jal, we need to stop.
Video game.
We need to stop inviting people that play Zelda because they talk a lot about Zelda.
I know, right?
It's good.
It's really good. No, oh yeah.
You know, like Pokemon's also really good. I'm just saying.
All really good.
That's when you ask everybody what their favorite generation is, and then everybody goes wild, and it's like the Joker movie, but like over your favorite generation of Pokemon.
It's always funny when you argue about opinions, when it's just like their own opinion, and you're arguing why their opinion is wrong, and you're just like, well, they're not going to change their opinion. So
it just doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, if somebody prefers Gen 1 over like Gen 3, for example, it won't hurt me. Like it's not like I'm not going to be in physical pain over it. I'm going to survive. Will I always jokingly call someone who says that their favorite generation is Gen 1 or Gen 2 a ghost Pokemon hater? Absolutely. Because that is a funny joke. And it's funny to me, and I will always say it. Like, I remember, I think it was like, Super Rad said something about it, and I remember replying and being like, just say you hate ghost Pokemon. It's okay. Like, I will always make that joke, because it's funny.
It's always just funny, because, like, now, like, I don't know if it was like a 2012 thing or something like that. Whenever someone announced opinion, everyone's like, go bombarding in the chat. But, like, lately, like, whenever someone tries to, like, announce something about an opinion of their own, they're like, ha, I like this, fight me. No one replies to them. Everyone just continues talking about other shit, and I'm just like, it's because no one cares. It's your opinion.
I think the world is also coming to an understanding of like, and not everyone, obviously there are people out there who will never understand that like opinions are opinions, they aren't fact. Like I can like something that you don't like, you can like something that I don't like, and it's fine. The world goes on. The world still rotates. It's crazy, I know.
What?
But it just it goes on.
You take that back. My opinion's right, and that's it.
The world is flat, and it doesn't move.
It spins like a pizza.
Yeah, there's going to be someone. There's going to be someone who's going to be like, no, at least the world is flat, and it actually doesn't move. God. Anyways, but like, I don't know. I think we've all kind of come to this understanding of how like I always tell people when I talk about like my favorite games, if someone says like their game, like their favorite is something that is not my personal favorite, but they want to talk about it, like I'm always open to talking about it, but I feel like you also are careful with the fact that like it is that person's favorite, and you don't ever want to make them feel like, oh, that's a bad favorite, you know? Like I never want to make anyone feel that way. So I feel like it's hard to engage sometimes because if my opinion does differ, I want them to feel like they can have whatever opinion they want. Like not everybody likes Zelda games, right? So it's like, I understand that because those types of games don't appeal to everybody, and that's okay. It's the same way as like Final Fantasy doesn't appeal to everybody. Monster Hunter doesn't appeal to everybody, which I love it. But but yeah, like not everybody likes different things.
Exactly.
So You never want to step on anybody's toes for just like disliking or liking something that you dislike, you know?
No. Yeah, I'm always open to the idea of this, like, I love this thing, but I'm fine with people, like, other people, like, not talking shit about it, but, like, saying, it's like, okay, I can see your perspective on why you like it, but this is why I don't think it's the best. And I can see their perspective, like, oh, you're right about that point, or something. Or it creates more conversation towards that. We're just talking about conversation.
Yeah, it's a matter of just being like, oh, you like this thing? I don't really like it, but like, I think it's great that like you were able to enjoy it, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. So it's like
anime.
like which one?
Just all of them.
Just
All of them.
Oh. But I think that
right.
about
okay.
covers everything.
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 Yeah, it does.
Well, I mean, we could
went through
literally
a lot
talk
of
And a little
topics.
more.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but I mean, I feel like we could talk on forever, but like we all have shit we need to.
We do.
I need to eat. I
think
haven't
we
done that
could.
yet today. It's
Okay,
4
so
At
yeah,
p.m.
you should probably eat.
I've
I
had a cup
also
of
need to
coffee.
eat. So
The fuck?
I'm gonna go have another coffee. It's
Okay.
1 o'clock here though,
Yeah,
so it's
but-
not that late.
Yeah, but
But-
thank you so much, Elise, for being our guest for this episode of Gamer Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was
course.
amazing. Oh my goodness, it was a wonderful talk with you on the Free to Podcast, and it's wonderful to talk to you here again. A thing that I always love to say is that for what we're doing right now for Gamer Breakfast is that we're introducing each guest individually, kind of like talking about them, introducing them to the channel, and then later on we plan on doing like a whole group thing where we grab different streamers and put them together that they might not know each other or they do, and just like have a fun conversation. And if you're interested in coming back for that, that'll be amazing.
I would love to. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
really cool. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Oh yeah. So that's like, this is like our season 1 kind of thing right now.
Yeah.
But
Grabbing people, talking with people, see who we vibe with, see who we hate.
Oh.
Oh wait a minute.
have we had this?
So far, it's
No,
no one.
no, I'm just kidding.
So far, it's been no one.
Oh, okay. But
Except Skoy.
My gosh.
it's a shame that I'm in every episode then. Well, but thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys very much for listening. We're on Spotify. Every single link will be in the description below. All of Elise's links will be in there. If you
Make
want
sure
to
you go
plug
follow
yourself,
her.
yeah, go follow her. If there's anything you want to plug yourself or mention about what you're doing, let us know.
I feel like I
you
plugged
on the
myself a
spot like
lot
this.
at the start. I'm like, I don't think I have anything else to say other than like if people do want to check me out, feel free. I think my community is pretty comfy, so if you want to come hang out with us,
Incredibly
we're pretty
comfy.
chill.
She
Mhm.
does a lot of cosplay streams. She's an incredibly comfy person. Definitely recommend checking her out. But yeah, see you guys in the next one. All right. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Have a good breakfast.
Yes.